Freeze the fuck up.
Could be all it is you need, 'cause we are trying to find a way to feel. If I could sleep, I'd dream of what we'd be, but I can feel you slip further from me. Oh, it makes it hard to be when you are all that I want but don't have, and I'll run into the sea, follow this heart that escapes me, it escapes me, and I'm lost. Forget me, all I was and become everything, all I wanted. I can't wait forever. Old habits are hard to break. I'm losing faith. Maybe we're better off this way, but I'm still lost. Forget me. All I want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Temporium. Today we are casting the Fellow Tamers Little Cup, the top 8 going all the way into the finals. Brought to you by Temporium GG. I'm Pres B. Kennedy, joined by Mad Stats. Mad Stats, how are you feeling?
Yo, Candy man, nice to be here with you, and yeah, I'm feeling really good. I'm really excited for this first quarterfinal we're going to see, and yeah, happy to cast today here with you. Always a pleasure.
Same. And like you said, we are going to be casting the quarterfinals. We're not going to cast every single quarterfinal match, but we're going to pick out the most interesting one we can find of them, of our contenders today in the finals of the, are in the quarterfinals in this top 8 bracket. Of the Fellow Tamers Little Cup, number 2, we have Ice Reed versus Polaris, Tsubaki-chan versus Shiroki, Prati versus Klozix, and Flowmaster versus Nilo MTG. Out of these games, we had a discussion behind the scenes and decided we're going to cast Tsubaki-chan for everybody, as Klozix is a player that always does so fantastic, and we expect to see them ideally making it to the finals so we can catch their game. And Tsubaki-chan's another one that always brings the hype, and we're all very excited to see Tsubaki-chan versus Shiroki. So let's jump into the draft today, or jump into the draft right now. All right.
We're late.
I am pulling it up. Yeah, the game is starting. I'm pulling it up right now on my screen.
So let's quickly go over the teams. We have Tsubaki-chan here, who picked Tateru and Valorant as the starters. Piggy, Kino, Mestion, fill out the rest of the spots. And for Shiroki, we have Yukama and Valorant, and on the bench, Saipad, Mix, and Whiplump.
And this is why we picked this game. We are just getting straight into it, bringing the hype. Tsubaki in the yellow versus Shiroki in the blue. Look at this team. We've got an Ukama and Volarin, and a Volarin and Teru out on the map. And it looks like Shiroki's Volarin is attacking into the other Volarin with Windblade, and Ukama is starting off with the water cannon onto the Teteru. Because of that synergy, the Teteru is picking up poison stats, and the Noxious Bomb is going to hit so hard from Tsubaki-chan's Volarin, and the Noxious Bomb from Teteru is also going to hit incredibly hard onto Shiroki's Ukama. And that was a very, very high damaging opening start.
And we also just seen Ukama has a Tokma mask on him, so without that, he probably might have already died here first turn. So, crazy start to the game. We also just realized Shiroki's Valorant is actually aerobic and not anaerobic. Which is not the case for Tsubaki. He has the classic anaerobic right now, and the Tateru with the Noxious Bomb. But, sadly, the Noxious Bomb, no stab damage, and that's probably also the reason why the Ukama could survive the first turn, so looks like a quick switch gotta come in here.
Teteru swapping out for Pigapek on Tsubaki-chan's side. Shiroki's Ukama with an Aquatic Whirlwind, as it is online, is going to hit into that Pigapek slot, dealing a nice little chunk of damage, and Volarin with the Blizzard onto Tsubaki-chan's Volarin, and that aerobic is ticking up. And a Toxic Plume from Tsubaki-chan's Volarin is going to be enough damage to take out the Ukama. And that is a turn 2. Tim dead.
Yeah, Shiroki definitely took the risk here, wanted to do the damage and probably tried to kill Tateru, but since the switch came in, he just did a lot of damage on the Pigapig. And yeah, that's why he lost his Ukama to the Toxic Plume. I mean, would have been just enough if it just didn't do any damage and just would give him the Toxic tick. He already was under 12.5%. And yeah, now we got Saipad in. Also can do a good amount of damage to Valorant with Anichu Sai, for example, but it's a hold move, so has to wait a little. But Tsubaki switched his Pig in, so it will be able to now use Turbo Choreography instantly and make this Valorant even stronger on the offensive side.
Yeah, Turbo Choreography is such a terrifying move on Pigapek now with the wind meta being so centered around speed control. Pigapek also having access to Hypnosis. We'll see if Tsubaki-chan is running it here, as Hypnosis can be a terrifying option too to deal with threats. Volarin for Shiroki swapping out, and the mix is going to be swapping in, taking that Volarin's place. Pigapek with Turbo Choreography on Tsubaki-chan's side. That is going to be 2 stages of speed. Saipat with Toxic Ink onto the Pigapek. That's going to be 2 ticks of poison, and Noxious Bomb coming out from Tsubaki-chan's Volarin onto the Saipat is going to deal a good amount of damage, and the aerobic ticking up.
Yeah, the tick will not be enough to get the Pig down to dodge the Feignet Curse, but if he gets a little bit extra damage here on the Pig, he could actually still take the tick and take it out safely. On the other side, though, another Noxious Bomb on the Saipat could actually kill him, so gotta be careful with that one. And yeah, the Volarin from Tsubaki is already a real threat here. 2 speed extra, plus 3 special defense, so a real tank can only be really taken out with some normal attacks, but the only really good option he still has is the Saipat.
The Pigapek swapping out for Tsubaki-chan, Saipat swapping out for Shiroki, Volarin coming in to occupy that slot, and the Noxious Bomb from Volarin on Tsubaki-chan's side is going to go into Shiroki's Volarin, as that Noxious Bomb doesn't really find a mark on a good 10. Crystal Spikes from Mix onto Mastion, dealing over 25% of its HP. Given Mastion's defenses and its typing, not bad.
Yeah, actually surprised by the damage here as well. That could mean that Mix has actually a lot of TVs into special attack. And maybe he's a little squishy here, but good choice here by Shiroki to be safe and take out the Saipat first. I mean, the hold move Nietzsche Sai should be ready if he swaps it in again. He just needs to find a safe spot to get it in and actually do the damage to Volarin in that case.
Yeah, and I feel like Shiroki's been playing on an uphill battle this game of just being always a turn behind in this board state. As right now, tell me what you think, but I believe Meteor Swarm's online for that Mastion and Toxic Plume's online for the Volarin. The Mix doesn't really have much room to do anything here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he should swap it out, but the options he could swap in are also in danger to the Toxic Plume as well. So, not a good option for Shiroki here.
Tsubaki-chan swapping out that Mastion with the Pigapek. Volarin with the Toxic Plume, Mix staying in, the Crystal Synergy, and that is going to kill the Pigapek, the Volarin taking the Feignet Curse, and the Psy Surge from Mix onto the anaerobic Volarin is not going to deal much damage regardless of those TVs, as Volarin decides to rest rather than overexerting.
Also really good here by Tsubaki getting in that Pig and then giving the damage to Volarin. I mean, it is an aerobic Volarin after all, but now with the 2 speed buffs that are already on Tsubaki's Volarin, he should be able to take out Shiroki's Volarin just with 1 hyperkinetic strike.
Yeah, hyperkinetic strike always going to be a threat. The second somebody decides to click that button, we're going to see one of these sides take huge damage. And I think in this turn, what plays do you see here available for Shiroki?
Shiroki is still in a weird spot because, I mean, Tateru is a threat to his Mix anyway, so he gotta be careful about that. But also, Mix can... wait, it's Kino in. Oops. Just got flashed by the log, but take it away.
Yeah, Volarin swapping out. Whiplump coming in for Shiroki's side. Volarin with a Noxious Bomb going to be hitting onto that Whiplump slot, and that is going to be a hefty amount of damage. The Volarin maxed out on special defense already, and a Beta Burst coming in from the Kinu onto the Whiplump is going to drop that Whiplump to 36%. The Kinu staying in is going to eat a Crystal Spikes, and it is going to deal 70% of its HP. But Kinu's base special defense is going to help it tank up that Crystal Spikes really, really well, all things considered.
Yeah, and I mean, Cherokee just got the start on the Whiplump. You just don't want to see. Basically, got hit into death range now by the Noxious Bomb, so gotta be really careful and thoughtful of the next move here. But his mix is looking good. It's the only Tem he still has with full HP. So he needs to
And
do a
it's
lot of
probably
work.
the last Tem he wants with full HP is that Puppet
Yeah.
Master can push moves onto other Tems with swaps.
I mean, he would have
Um,
probably gladly taken some hits on the swap and on his mix.
Yeah, and that last switch was a little bit questionable for me because I don't think Cherokee had anything to lose from doubling up on Tsubaki-chan's Kinu slot because Hyperkinetic and Crystal Spikes either killed Kinu or pretty much killed anything Tsubaki could swap in there, as Mastion would not tank a Hyperkinetic that well.
Yeah, he may was a little afraid though to lose his Valorant here, so that's maybe why he swapped it out.
The Noxious Bomb from Tsubaki-chan going to take out that Whiplump before it has a chance to do much of anything. The Kinu with the Revitalize going onto that Volorin with maxed out special defense is going to be such a threat to get through. The mix continuously trying to take out this Kinu, but it's just not going to be enough as the Kinu is able to live a Psy Surge with 2% HP.
Yeah, and that's really frustrating. I mean, we don't know what Cherokee wanted to do with his Whiplump here, but since Valorant already got the speed buffs, he outspeeds the Whiplump, and that's why he couldn't do anything and just gets killed after being in for 2 turns. It's a really bad spot now for Cherokee to be in here.
Yeah, Cherokee on an uphill battle with 3 Tems against 4 Tems here. The Kinu's on its last legs, and he's got Hyperkinetic Strike online for this Volorin and the Speed Arrow. It is one thing on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field that could potentially die to this, as the mix did not overexert, but it might have to if it wants to kill a Tem, or it might rest here as Tsubaki-chan's been willing to leave it alone.
Yeah, and also pretty huge play just to revitalize from Kinu on the Volorin. I mean, he's already so tanky with all these buffs. He got 5 special defense in there. He also got 1 defense from Kinu, so real threat now.
Kinu swapping out for Teteru on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field. Windblade from Volorin going on to the Teteru, and if Aerobic Trade is going to give it a little bit more speed, both Mix and Volorin choose to rest, respectively, for Cherokee and Tsubaki.
Yeah, so a little pause turn here, basically, just 1 attack coming out. I mean, Cherokee probably took the right option here, going with the Windblade, kills Kinu if it stays, does a little damage to everything that comes in, but gives him 1 extra speed and makes his Hyperkinetic even more dangerous.
Volorin swapping out for Cherokee. Psypat coming in to take its spot. A Hyperkinetic Strike coming out from Volorin on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field, and that Psypat's going to tank it so well. A Turbo Choreography from Teteru as Teteru buffs up the speed, mixed with another Psy Surge onto this Teteru, and it is a normal type. It is not going to eat that well as the Teteru is down, and it is a 3-Tem match to 3 Tems. Mastion coming out for Tsubaki-chan, and we will see what Cherokee decides to do here. What plays do you see for him, Mad Stats?
I don't see many good options for him here. He has a problem that his Valorant will also die if he swaps it back in. His Cypad will die in a situation. And just with Valorant being so fast, I don't think there's a lot of plays he can do.
Noxious Bomb coming out from the Volorin, killing the Psypat. That is going to be enough to take it out entirely. The Meteor Storm coming on from the Mastion is not going to be enough to kill this mix, as the Puppet Master is now online, but the Aerobic Volorin can only take about 2 hits before it's out of here physically, and especially 1 hit and that thing is gone.
Yeah, and Valorant now on Tsubaki's side, he got the Hyperkinetic back, so he could just Hyperkinetic Strike into the Valorant. Will be the fastest on the field, should kill him as well with the speed buffs. And yeah, Mastion just needs to put a little fire attack on Mix to follow it all up.
The Mix with a cage going to catch the swap, killing the Mastion with a Hyperkinetic Strike, and it is out of here as it is 2 Tems to 2 Tems. And the Toxic Plume is going to be enough to mop up that mix, as this is now one Tim to one Tim, the Volarin, or one Tim to two Tims, the Volarin on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field overexerting, and it is an uphill battle for this aerobic Volarin. The aerobic Volarin with Blizzard from Shiroki's side of the field is going to kill the Kinu, and Tsubaki-chan's Volarin is overexerted, and it is a hyperkinetic battle against hyperkinetic battle here, as Tsubaki-chan's Volarin does have 5 stages of special defense, and hyperkinetic is a special attack. Hyperkinetic Strike from Shiroki is not going to deal enough damage, and Tsubaki-chan says, let me show you how it's done with an anaerobic hyperkinetic strike, and that is going to be game 1 going to Tsubaki-chan.
Yeah, and there we saw the beauty of just being tanky. I mean, you saw the difference there of having 5 buffs on special defense and basically losing all your special defense. And that's a deciding factor then here in the game.
Yeah, what an action-packed game, and let me get ready to jump into the next one. I really like what Shiroki was able to do to dig themselves out of that hole and give themselves a window back into that game, but all in all, they were just unable to pull off that final leap.
And Candy, I also don't know what it is, but always when I'm casting quarters with you, we always have the situation where it looks like this game is already over. One player is ahead, and in some way, the other player still turns it around and makes it an interesting match.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of the things that comes with like running an anaerobic Volarin, or an aerobic Volarin, is that you lose that ability to be infinitely tanky towards the end of the game, but like that turn factor of the hyperkinetic strike can just always swing a game a little bit back into your favor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was probably able to like hyperkinetic one-shot every time on Tsubaki's side, except for the Volarin, who just, 5 special defense. I mean, nothing you can do with a hyperkinetic there, even though it was, I think, fully buffed on speed. It's still like only the 10% to it, so crazy to think about how tanky this Tem actually was.
Yeah, and with some of these matches, just that anaerobic Volarin, I was watching a streamer earlier this week, Karth, talking about like how anaerobic Volarin does like nothing in this meta, because that's one of the reasons people are running Hypnosis so much, is you can stall out a Volarin like that. But in this situation, when you don't have that Hypnosis play or anything to kind of keep that Volarin CC'd or on lockdown, like that's the beauty of anaerobic Volarin. It gets out there, it sits on the field, and it threw a Noxious Bomb out, every turn except for like maybe 3 turns?
Yeah, I mean, it was on the field for the whole game. It didn't leave the right spot of Tsubaki's side. And I mean, it had a sweatband on it, sure, but just thinking about a Tem being on the field all the time and like only, I don't know, 3 or 4 turns doing nothing and doing something in the other 10 turns is crazy to me, especially if you think about the damage output it actually did.
So what do you think Shiroki needs to do coming into game 2 of this match?
First of all, I'm like really surprised a little bit here. We got a pretty quick game, and we also got a game with no Hypnosis attack in it. So I'm really interested to see if maybe Shiroki would think about putting something else in here that actually can use Hypnosis and maybe stop that Valorant, or just going for the Valorant ban instantly, because...
And if I could real quick, we're in the picks and ban phase for Shiroki, and Shiroki does have a Pigapack on their team, which will have access to Hypnosis, and they do have a Kinu on their team that has access to Hypnosis, so... whether or not they're running Hypnosis in those slots will be determined, later in this match. But yeah, some Hypnosis play could really help them. Getting into this game too of Shiroki versus Tsubaki-chan. Tsubaki-chan is up 1 game. The first ban of the game is going to be the gentleman's ban on each player's Gaialis, respectively. And first pick for Shiroki is going to be Volarin.
Just as classic as it can be, right?
Yeah, there are very, very few things that push out a Volarin first pick. It's a pretty safe thing in this situation. I myself am a huge fan of Kinu first pick and then swapping out your Kinu, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it also works if you like. I mean, you can swap it out and then just dodge anything that comes at it anyway. But I mean, Valorant, like, considering you don't want to switch out your Tem, Valorant is probably safest first pick you can always do in Temtem.
Teteru being picked up by Tsubaki-chan as they think and look for their second Tem to play here in this opening.
Yeah, maybe we see the Teteru Valorant opening again, and it actually comes in. Damn.
Teteru Valorant as we see Saipat Valorant for Shiroki.
That's really interesting to me because, I mean, we know that Valorant and Teteru both have access to a Noxious Bomb, which would actually be really bad for the Saipat here, so let's see what Shiroki has planned here, which we don't know about.
Yeah, Shiroki must have something in their pocket here, knowing that Saipat could be doubled up on again from those Noxious Bomb users. The second ban of the game for Shiroki onto Tsubaki-chan's grandpa is going to eliminate a huge portion of the Hypnosis Turbo choreography play that Tsubaki-chan has access to this game, as Tsubaki-chan considers their next ban.
Also, a really funny thing, now that we actually see the full comms of them, I mean, in the first game we just jumped into there because they were so quick. Tsubaki-chan actually having a Gaelis on his side, that is funny to me because he always, like, he told me he always tried to, like, get away from the meta picks and dominate with other picks.
Pigapack being picked up for Tsubaki-chan here with that final ban going on to Shiroki's Pigapack. And Kinu being picked up here for Shiroki as Shiroki debates their next pick.
Yeah,
and that next one's going to be a Whiplump.
Shiroki's like in a really weird spot with all the picks he can like do in this game, because like every Tem is, at least nearly every Tem is threatened just by the Tsubaki's Valorant. If you think about it, Saipat is weak to Toxic, Kinu is weak to Toxic, Whiplum is weak to Toxic, he can still pick Ukama, weak to Toxic, Mix can actually get hit by Toxic Plume, so many things that have a lot of problems with Valorant.
Yeah, and like just looking at this pick here, Tsubaki's kind of pushed Shiroki into a strange game as we get into this game too, and Mad Stats, I've got hesitations. I've got lots of hesitations about this Saipat slot, but Shiroki must have a plan. What are we going to see here from turn one?
I mean, the safest thing, Tsubaki will just drop a Noxious Bomb on the Saipat spot, because whatever will come in there, Saipat, Kinu, Whiplum, Ukama, everything's gonna get hit by that.
And the Saipat is staying using Stare onto the Bowlerin. Feather Gatling from Shiroki's side onto that Bowlerin, not giving it the chance to set up. It's at 59% HP just starting out this game. The Noxious Bomb coming out from the Bowlerin onto the Saipat slot is going to do a huge chunk of damage. Teteru with the Noxious Bomb onto the Saipat is going to do a huge chunk of damage, but the Bowlerin has lower defense and Nicho Sai is available for this Saipat here. Shiroki might be willing to just sacrifice this Saipat one for one for this Bowlerin, as Tsubaki-chan has to now decide if they want to make a trade. Or Mad Stats, what do we got here? What do we got?
Huge, that's huge. I mean, if you just think about it, Saipat should be the fastest with a Nicho Sai, and Valorant should also, Shiroki's Valorant should also do the damage, so Tsubaki's Valorant is dead here if he's not swapping it out. And if you then watch the 4v4, I mean, he might get the Saipat, right? But if you watch the 4v4 then, with everyone being still full life, Shiroki has actually a good chance, so Tsubaki needs to be really careful about what he does here, and if he really wants to let his Valorant stay on.
Yeah, Tsubaki-chan, Tsubaki and Shiroki both probably heavily debating what's coming up next here, as Shiroki's created an area where he could potentially like have a swap here. Bowlerin swapping out on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field. Kinu coming in, giving that protector buff to the Teteru. Teteru with a death stare looking down the side of the Saipat. Saipat staying in and going for the Nicho Sai onto Kinu, but Kinu's going to take that really well with its typing, but the Noxious Bomb from Bowlerin goes onto the Teteru slot instead, and this Bowlerin is anaerobic this game for Shiroki. the Psypat being taken out by a noxious bomb from the Teteru, and that Psypat is out of here.
Yeah,
The
that's
Kinu coming out for Shiroki, and we've seen kind of a reverse now side of the field. An anaerobic Voloran and a Kinu on Shiroki's side of the field. All right. I'm sorry, Mad Sets, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Shiroki's plan was pretty clear here, and I mean, Tsubaki did the right thing, swapping it out, taking out Kinu, who actually can tank. The Psypats attack pretty easily, but interestingly to me, why didn't Shiroki's Voloran also slot onto the Kinu? I mean, he wants to get rid of that Voloran of Tsubaki's side, right? And now, I mean, the Voloran got swapped out, but imagine just the Noxious Bomb dropping on Kinu. This would have been huge damage.
Yes, and I just want to Hypnosis coming out from the Kinu on Tsubaki's side of the field. And like I was saying, when you see an anaerobic Voloran, this is how you deal with it. You put it to sleep and deal with it later. Beta Burst coming out from the Kinu onto the enemy Kinu, but Tsubaki-chan's Kinu tanking that really well. And a Noxious Bomb from the Teteru is going to deal so much damage onto this Kinu as it comes down. And Kinu is at half HP. I want to address something I saw real quick. This is the Fellow Tamers Little Cup, if you're tuning in, brought to you by Temporium GG. The rules for it are in our Discord. If you join our Discord, you can go to the Fellow Tamers channel and see some of the rules of this tournament, that Tamers can make some adjustments between games, as opposed to some of the normal Temporium tournaments, the weekly ones that we run here. The Teteru swapping out for Tsubaki-chan, and Voloran coming back in. Anaerobic Voloran, but it's got a stage of defense down. Kinu with Revitalize on it, getting rid of that early damage from it, and Kinu on Shiroki's side, putting that Voloran to sleep. As both of these Volorans are just resting in the nest.
I also have to say, like, because you mentioned the thing in chat with the rules, for a moment I was like, well, that's an animal rule, and wait, that's illegal. But then I remembered, no, wait, it's not a temporary weekly. I was like, okay.
Yeah, somebody else had the same thought of just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I was like, also like with the Feather Gatling, I was pretty sure that the Valorant before didn't have a Feather Gatling in there, so I was like, wait. In the first I was already a little confused, but then after seeing like the special death going up, I was like, what's happening? Why is he doing that? No.
Yeah, this is a cash tournament, $200 on the line, and it is all about the skills and decisions you bring to the table rather than your team just getting out-countered or outplayed. So as long as these Tamers are able to respond to their opponent's strategy, going into each successive game, each Tamer is going to just come with a little bit more knowledge, and the Tamer on the other side is going to have to respond to it.
Yeah, and it actually puts the game into a whole other perspective, because now we got two Valorants being the super hard tanks, but still, like, if you just look at the comp, Tsubaki definitely has an advantage here, because his Valorant is free to now basically attack the spot next to the Valorant every turn, as long as it doesn't sleep, which happened here, so gotta be careful with that, maybe get some speed on it to not get hypnosed every turn, but we will see how Tsubaki will deal with this problem.
Yeah, like you said, a Noxious Bomb flying into that slot could be so terrifying and have to push that Kinu out. And if that Kinu's out, then there goes your Hypnosis control of keeping this Voloran locked down.
Yeah, right, it's also Shiroki's only option, so he's gotta be very of that and like watch his Kinu, because it is really important as his winning condition here.
Yeah, we'll see as these Tamers select their moves. Voloran for Shiroki swapping out. Don't tell him how to live his life, as Whiplump comes in to take its place. Voloran on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field, swapping out Pigapet, coming in, occupying that slot. Turbo choreography from Kinu on the Pigapet is going to give it Hypnosis control over this enemy Kinu, but Shiroki is on it, predicting the swap and responding with the turbo choreography of their own.
And I actually like that he put in the Whiplump here to give Whiplump the speed, because now he should be the fastest Tem if he has speed TVs in the game for sure, even though Pig and Kinu on Tsubaki's side are also buffed. So really interesting to see what he will try with that Whiplamp here, especially because it now, right on the field right now, is not threatened by a Valorant, so he might actually be able to do some damage here with the Whiplamp.
Yeah, the Whiplamp is such a great option to pair when you're running Hypnosis pressure, because the turns you don't Hypnosis, you can put out Freeze pressure, and it's just like that alternating. It's like that alternating state of CC to just inch your way to victory.
Yeah.
Kinu swapping out for Tsubaki, Voloren swapping in, Kinu swapping out for Shiroki. And we are going to see the Ukama coming in alongside that Whiplamp. Another turbo choreography. This is the fastest pig in the world, as it's at +4 stages of speed. And Whiplamp with Tsunami is going to pour down just a little bit of damage on each of these Tem, but more importantly, it did not get its wind synergy off.
And is also eating the snare of Pig here, so also interesting fact we have to consider. I actually have to say I like Shiroki not swapping in his Valorant, so he now has a chance to swap it in and maybe have it eat the Noxious Bomb.
Yeah, the Whiplamp swapping out the Pigapek with Hypnosis onto the Ukama. The Ukama put to sleep as Voloren Noxious Bombs the Ukama slot, or Noxious Bombs the Whiplamp slot. And Shiroki has read that, swapping in the Voloren. And like you said, that's such a great play of seeing that here.
Yeah, that's a mind game he had to take, or the gamble he had to take, because otherwise it would always be a hit on a Water Tem or Kinu.
Kinu swapping in for Shiroki, that protector buff going off. Pigapek on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field bamboozling their Voloren. That Tsubaki's Voloren with a Feather Gatling onto Shiroki's Voloren, and Shiroki's Voloren with a Noxious Bomb onto the Pigapek. A turn of just a little bit of damage, but the board state shifting.
Interesting now is though if Tsubaki will still Hypnosis the spot next to Valorant, which I can't imagine. I mean, we saw Tsubaki's Valorant just hitting Shiroki's Valorant because he didn't want to wake up the Ukama, and Shiroki again used that strategy or this mindset to get in Kinu to give a buff to his Valorant. I mean, this is important for him now. He has to get the buffs on his Valorant, so his Valorant can stay as strong as Tsubaki's Valorant or even get stronger. So yeah, good plays here by Shiroki in the last 2 turns.
Yeah, and I want to note on my screen it says this Kinu has 18% stamina, but I'm pretty sure it should be higher, closer to 60%. The Kinu swapping out for Ukama, Ukama swapping in the Hypnosis from Pigapek going on to Shiroki's Voloren, and the Noxious Bomb from Tsubaki-chan going on to that Ukama slot, dealing a huge chunk of damage.
Yeah, and now Shiroki is in that state again, his Voloren is on the field, so Tsubaki knows that he only has to hit the left spot and just keeps on hitting and hitting and hitting till, yeah, just every Water, Tem and Kinu is down, and he's going to have a struggle to get out of here. And he also knows that his Kinu is his only Hypnosis Tem, and he's not sure if he can even outspeed the Valorant, so big problems here for Shiroki, and gonna be interesting to see if he can overcome it.
Ukama with the turbo choreography, the synergy sending this Voloren speed up, and the Ukama is going to be taken out by a Noxious Bomb from Tsubaki-chan's Voloren, and that is it. See you later, Ukama, as it is now 3 Tems to 5 Tems. On 3 Tems to 5 Tems, Shiroki is down to, as Kinu swaps back out for Shiroki, giving another protector buff off. When the time comes for this Voloren to start taking damage, it's going to be a year and a half before we see its HP drop to 20%.
Yeah, gonna be interesting to see now if Shiroki might even give another turbo to it, to give it another buff and make it faster than the Valorant on Tsubaki's side, but he has a problem. His Valorant still has to overcome 5 Tems, and I mean, Tsubaki didn't even put out his Raiken yet, which his Whiplam would be good against, or his Ukama and Saipad would also been good against, so no struggle for him here.
A Bamboozle from the Pigapek onto Tsubaki-chan's Volaren. Kinu with a Revitalize onto Shiroki's Volaren, and Shiroki's Volaren with another Noxious Bomb onto the Pigapek slot as its special defense is maxed out. A Noxious Bomb from Tsubaki-chan's Volaren going onto the Kinu, and that is going to be enough to take it out as it is now 2 Tims to 5 Tims. Looking at this game, I just want to comment real quick on the stamina. On my screen, I don't know if it's bugged, but the Volaren should be at about 20%. The Pigapek should be at about 20% too. The Whiplump and Volaren on Shiroki's side of the field should be full on
And
stamina.
it doesn't matter.
All right, yeah, and game 2 is going to go to Tsubaki-chan. Tsubaki mopping up that game. Just mad stats. What a quick set.
Yeah, and I mean, considering what meta we have right now and seeing a lot of these Hypnosis Tams in these comms, quick games, not much of this Hypnosis stuff. I mean, we had a little bit in game 2, but I mean, game 1 didn't have one Hypnosis attack. And yeah, to be honest, like, Shiroki drafted himself like in a really hard situation, and he just couldn't get away from the Volaran of Tsubaki here. I mean, he tried his best if like the first turn works out, but Tsubaki's smart enough to swap it out there and yeah, let him get carried by it later on.
Yeah, and like we were talking, I'm gonna spectate Quaslix in the background and just comment on it as needed. But while we were talking to the casters earlier before this game, there was some commentary that the Hypnosis play can be really stagnant to play against. But I think all of the interesting parts of this meta and this game currently is in the preparation, knowing that the Hypnosis strategy is coming from your teammate and trying to find ways to respond and react to it, which I think both players did an excellent job of banning out, Hypnosis users on the other side, responding to turbo choreographies when turbo choreographies were coming, and really responding to the Hypnosis plays that they were going to see to put it into a position where it's like, yeah, that whole set, we saw 3 Hypnosis being used, I think.
Yeah. But like on the other side, like playing against Hypnosis just feels like really annoying if you're not like 100% sure about the speeds and everything involved. But like watching games with Hypnosis isn't like too boring because like you actually see some strategy involved, and I mean, as long as you're not hit by the stuff you don't like, it doesn't feel as bad if you're like in there and getting hit by the Hypnosis all the time.
Yeah, what does feel bad is taking a Noxious Bomb every single turn when all you have is Nature and Water Tims. Yeah. So that was just one of those threats of like having Noxious Bomb across so many users on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field really just netted them such huge benefits resulting from how well they played the pick and ban phase.
Also, I just tuned into Classics versus Prody, but I don't know if we
yeah, I'm not sure if Dan's going to put this on stream either. I don't know what the score is currently between these players, but just when people respond with like how stale the meta can be, I just always think that's such a silly comment, because watching this game, we have a Mushuk like Gyalis opener, and then yeah, Clausix's team itself is always so wonderful and unique. And people complain about the staleness of the Temtem meta, but it's like the game's been out for 3 months, and we've had 3 hugely different metas between the wind meta, the high damage aerobic meta, and then the very, very tanky Gyalis, tanky anaerobic Volaran meta. That I think the game changes wonderfully. All right, it looks like we're pulling up Clausix on stream for everybody. We have Clausix versus Prody as getting into this turn 1. Clausix has a Valash and a Kinu on the field against the Gyalis Mushuk, and the Gyalis is going to heat up on Shrody's side of the field, and the Lash is going for a Madness buff, getting that Madness buff off. A perfect jab from the Mushuk onto the Valash is going to lower its defense and put it in kill range, and Kinu with a Beta Burst onto the Mushuk, regardless of its defenses, it's going to deal a good chunk of damage. Are you tuned into this game, Mad Stats?
Yeah,
what are we looking for here?
Yeah, I mean, we see a classic start here by both Valash and Gallus. They both know they're pretty unthreatened, so both take out the buffs. And now it's going to be interesting to see if Classics wants his Valash to stay in and actually try to do something here on the Gaialis. But if he doesn't get a kill off, which he might not get, then he's in big trouble. He could actually be just deleted here. So Classics probably thinking about a swap here, and I think Prody is just fine with staying on. Maybe he can also swap to like predict the swap of Classics and be still in a better field position. But
yeah, and for the sake of not getting flamed on the chat, it is Prody that is playing here. I said Shrody because my brain was still processing Cherokee.
Yeah, and also maybe if Prody wants to be a little greedy, I mean, it's not greedy if it's not in danger, right? But he could go for a second heat up here, maybe if Classic's actually thinking about swapping out the Valash.
Classics with that swap on the Lash. Calibus coming in, occupying that slot. Mushuk swapping out for Prody as Rise comes in and is going to get that demoralize off on the Kinu and the Calibus. Kinu swapping out for Classics, and Rise coming in, getting the demoralize off on the enemy Rise and the enemy Gaialis. Kaido Uchi from Gaialis onto that Calibus, and for how physically defensive Calibus is, that's going to be a huge hit.
Yeah, most definitely, and probably thought about just hitting that Valash and getting it off the field if Classics would be greedy enough to let it stay on. But as I said, like the Valash swap could have been a good read, and he could actually like buff this Gaialis to 4 attacks, so that would have been a huge play for Prody. But still, the damage he did, as you already mentioned, pretty big for just, especially on the Calibus.
Yeah, Calibus has like 100 base defense, if I'm not mistaken. Tim is a bulk monster.
But I also love how both swapped out Kinu and Mashuki and got the raises in to control the speed from the get-go.
Yeah, speed control can be so important when fighting against a Valash, and that was one of the scary things about having like a Mushuk and Gaialis go in on the enemy team, is that the possibility for that Rise swap was always there, and that Rise swap coming down and putting you on a leg behind can just be so detrimental for either of those Tims. Getting an Embers before you attack with your Gaialis, or getting an Embers before you attack with your Mushuk, it's a sad day.
Most definitely, and also interesting enough, as you were just talking about the meta shifts in Temtem, we only see one Tem, if I'm not mistaken here, that can actually use Hypnosis again, which is Kinu. So again, a game where we probably won't see a lot of sleepy Tems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very few sleepy Tims happening here, as both of these Tamers really take their time deciding on what the next move is going to be. Prody swapping out Gaialis, Volcrane coming in to take that Gaialis' spot. Classic swapping out Rise, and Volarin coming in, occupying that slot. And Rise for Prody swapping out as Mushuk comes in to take the Rise's spot. Toxic Ink from Calibus onto the Volcrane, but the Volcrane's so defensive that it doesn't really matter. And that is a bold move, swapping in that Volcrane here.
Oh, it's a really funny. I see the game of swaps. Again, 2 swaps on one side, 1 swap on another side. So both Tamers are swapping around, trying to get into that field position where they in an advantage. So no one could like gain like any, let's say, momentum or speed advantage here. And both Tamers are still looking for the 2 right Tams to get onto their opponent.
Yeah, that Calibus, though, having access, being so physically defensive and having access to a water move is going to make that Volcrane swap out for Prody as Gaialis comes back in. Mushuk with the perfect jab onto the Volaran is going to lower the Volaran's defense. If the Volaran responds with the Feather Gatling onto the Mushuk, it's going to deal so much damage from that typing. But the Mushuk's Parrier in its coat is going to help it tank that really well. The Calibus with the Tsunami damaging both slots, not going to do much to that Mushuk, but putting out a tiny bit of freeze pressure.
Yeah, and considering the damage Calibus did here on Gaialis, and also Gaialis having the Umbrella, this Gaialis might actually be a tanky one. At least Umbrella is an item you more often see on tanky Gaialis than on the speedy or attacking ones. So interesting here again. But I really like the jab from Mushuk here because it does put Volaran on defensive -1. So Gaialis with the double attack buff and Mushuk still on here could actually do some good amount of damage onto this Volaran, which would be huge because it's anaerobic and actually wants to stay on the field for long, wants to be tanky, wants to have the special defense buffers, and if it doesn't get that off and just gets smashed by attacks, yeah, that hurts.
The Mushuk for Prati swapping out, Whiplump coming in, filling that slot. The Calibus for Klozix swapping out, and the Rise coming in and going to put all of these Tems on a lower stage of speed. The Demoralize going off. The Feather Gatling from Volaran onto the Gaialis, dealing a nice little chunk of damage, but the Gaialis with the Crystal Bite onto the Volaran, and it is out of here.
That was a big one here for Prodi, just smashing the Volaran off the field. It couldn't get it any buff off, and also that puts Whiplump and Mushuk out of a lot of danger here in this game. So really good for Prodi getting that one off the field.
But the other thing too, that Valash comes in and Gaialis is currently at -2 speed. There is no way in Heckerdoodles that this Gaialis is going to be able to get a move off on to this Valash before the Valash starts going ham.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Prodi has to swap here, but at least he has good options for the Gaialis, which Valash can't hurt too much.
Rise swapping out for Klozix, Kinu swapping in, building the defenses of this Valash, Whiplump swapping out for Prati, and the Volcrane coming in to take that spot. Gaialis swapping out for Prati, and the Rise coming in to demoralize the enemy team, lowering that speed of the Valash. It's going to put it on a slightly lower stage, but with all the special attack buffs in the world, it's not going to be enough to help Crystal type damage Volcrane, as it takes 1/4 damage from Crystal Spikes.
Yeah, and actually because I was running out of time because the next turn was already happening, but I wanted to say, if he just wants to be like 100% sure that nothing's happened to him here, Prodi can just swap in Waves and Volcrane, and he actually did that and is now in a pretty good field position where Classics has to swap something.
The double fire meta's back, boys! It's
Let's
back!
go! And yeah,
the other thing that's worth noting that a lot of people never really remember is Meteor Swarm is online. I don't know if Volcrane gets access to it off the top of my head.
I'm also not 100% sure, but I think he does. But it's not like something every Volcrane runs, so...
Yeah. Extinction, Ninja Jutsu, Stone Ball, and Embers all being such great moves.
It doesn't have it, though. It doesn't have it.
Okay, does not have access to it. Valash swapping out for Klozix. The Calibus swapping in to try and scare off that Volcrane. The Mushuk swapping out and swapping in for Prati.
Oh.
And Extinction coming down on this board. All of these Tims are done for. Beta Burst from Kinu onto Volcrane, and it is going to deal just a little bit of damage.
What is really interesting about this whole Extinction situation now, though, I mean, he got Calibus and Kino, which both are like Temps which had a lot of HP still, but Classics could always swap out Kino and Calibus in the last turn, where they die, bring his Valash, and just let him die in the back, and the Scavenger will still trigger on them, so he could fill up his Valash. Probably has to keep that in mind, and be like 100% sure where like the Valish comes in to like hit it with the fire attack, so it can't get off its scavenger. So you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, and that Mushuk getting the Doom status on itself too is a little terrifying with how tanky that Mushuk can be in this situation. I know personally Mushuk one of my favorite Tems. I feel so sad that it's doomed to the fate that it's been dealt. We will see how this plays out though for Prodi.
He sold him for its extinction move. Mushroom,
I'm sorry, Mushuk. It's one of us and for two of them.
Sorry, you're the lowest Tem. You gotta take the extinction.
Yeah, that extinction play always being such a surprise when people decide to go for it. Volcrane for Prodi swapping out. Gyalis swapping in on Prodi's side of the field. The perfect jab from Mushuk going onto the Kinu, expecting the Kinu to swap out. But the Kinu says, no, I'm here, and you're going to die from this beta burst, as the Mushuk is out of here, did not even need a Doom status. The Calibus with a poison tick, with the Toxic Ink onto the Gyalis, and one poison tick is going to go off as the Doom status slowly ticks away.
And
Whiplum.
Forgot to swap.
Whiplum swapping in for Prodi. Go ahead. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, which is interesting here. I think he wants to get his Gyalis in because Prodi probably realized what I just said with being careful about Valish. So he wants to have Gyalis out and maybe wants to get Vulcan and Rise out the next turn. He kept Whiplum, or got Whiplum out for now because he didn't want Rise or Vulcan to eat like a water attack from Calibus probably, but he's got to swap in one of the fire Tems in this next turn to have options for the Valish that just will try to eat the Doom Tems and try to get up its HP again.
Yeah, and one of the scariest things, the tornado from the Whiplum going onto this Calibus, going to deal a huge amount of damage. The Gyalis with the Hidouchi onto the Calibus, and the Calibus is out of here. Kinu with the beta burst going onto the Whiplump is going to deal just a tiny bit of damage, and that Kinu is on its last turn of life no matter what happens here. Valash is in for Kha'Zix, and that Gyalis is not looking too healthy, staring it down.
What's gonna be interesting, does Kha'Zix Kinu have Sacrifice, which is always an attack to have in mind or consider when there's a Valish in the opponent team, because that's such a huge buff. And I mean, what else can this Kinu do now? It's gonna die after this turn, so a Sacrifice would be a huge play here for him if he has it.
The Whiplum swapping out and Volcrane swapping in to take its place. Gyalis swapping out, and the Rise coming in for Prodi. The Demoralize going on the enemy team, making good use of that swap and of that Doom condition. The Valash with the Crystal Spikes on the Rise, and just like you called, that Sacrifice going on to Valash, is that Valash is now officially designated as a monster. Rise coming out for Kha'Zix and demoralizing the enemy side of the field. Just let this man have speed. Just let him have speed. Kha'Zix.
I mean, also now the Valish is a monster. It's in a really good state, but he just lost whatever item he had to Rise with the snare. And the other problem he has to get through Rise and Vulcrane, and that's just such a mission for Valish, because he's not effective against any of those Tems, and they are effective against him. So Prodi's still in a good state here, even though this Valish is a raid boss.
Oh, going for a Roar on the Rise, and the Valash uses Rin on the Volcrane. The Volcrane is going to lose its typing and take a huge amount of damage. A King's Roar from the Rise, lowering the speed and attack of Kha'Zix's team, and a synergized Stone Ball onto Valash, burning it and putting some good damage down on it. With that speed down, will this Volcrane be able to get off Extinction this turn?
I don't even know if he wants to get off extinction though. I rather would try to just get rid of this Balash as soon as he can. But on the other side, the Balash is low on stamina as well, so it might overexert for whatever attack it might try to do. So the extinction might actually work if he wants to try that here.
Yeah, don't forget the burn condition reduces the damage it deals by 30%. So that the Balash alone is going to have a hard time picking up one of these kills without assistance from this Rise. 9% of HP on a Volcrane. Well, you know what? With that Rend, everything's going to hit neutral into it. So who knows?
I'm not sure like how Embers works now on Volcrane. Does it pull on the fire on it? Because then he could actually try to just use an Embers on Volcrane from Rise and kill it off that way. That should work if the typing actually doesn't work anymore.
The Rise switching out for Prodi as Whiplump swaps in. And the Crystal Dust going off from Valash onto that Volcrane is going to be enough to take it out, even with the burn. King's Roar from Rise onto the Whiplump going to be saving that. Is going to be saving the attack of his own Rise. Prodi swapping Rise back in is going to get another Demoralize off onto this Valash and this Rise. And I think that puts this Valash on even speed with the Gaialis. Oh no, it's at -4 speed. That Valash is going nowhere.
That's, I mean,
If
now...
Ido comes back online, good lord. Crystal Dust for Valash going off on the Whiplump, overexerting to do so. Whiplump with the Sharp Rain onto Rise, and that is going to be a good chunk of damage. And Prodi with a Embers onto the Valash, and Rise with an Ember onto the Whiplump. Those burns are going to tick for 1/16 of their HP.
Yeah, and I think now, even though Classics at least doesn't have to face 2 Fire Temps on the side of Prodi anymore, this game is really hard for him to come back to.
Yeah, the Whiplump attacking through all of that special defense really well. With the Tornado onto the Valash, the Rise with another Embers onto the Whiplump, and Prodi's Rise with an Embers onto the Valash. Raid Boss Valash is out of here. Classics on his last Tim of this game, staring down 3 Tims, and Whiplump goes for a Tsunami, and I believe that's going to be enough to mop up this game, as Rise is out of here, and this game goes in favor of Prodi.
Wow, and I've never seen that animation.
Yeah,
But
and what a game.
we have no clue though if it's now 1-1, if someone 1-1, 2-0. It's a weird state we're in here, but yeah, interesting game again. Also, no hypnosises, so really not the stuff you would expect here if you watch the ranked meta right now. So yeah, exciting games. I really like it.
Yeah, I am super hyped to see both of these players go into the next round of this competition. Let's see.
Prodi won.
Classics. Yeah, I was going to say Classics is offline on my screen, which means that set is going to go to Prodi, as Prodi is now 2-0 is 2-0 and moving on to the semifinals.
Also, just if you check the side, we got Tsubaki's opponent for the semi-final, which gonna be Ice Red, the man who got a 6-0 in the group stage, and now as the first seed goes into the semi-final.
Yeah, Tsubaki-chan versus Ice Red. I can't wait to see that game either, with like how fast these players or how fast like Tsubaki-chan's been playing with the amount of damage they get from their starts.
So we're only waiting for one more quarters, which is Flowmaster against Nilo. Let me have a quick check if they're still playing.
Yeah, on my... Oh, yeah. Haha! That is the beauty of Krima, giving us the ability to check on games much more quickly than we were able to before.
And it also seems like the quarterfinal here just... At least, maybe it's match 2, maybe it's match 3. It says Flowmaster's up 1-0. But it seems like the match whichever game it is, if it's game 2 or 3, just start it because most times are still for life.
All right. I will pull that up in the background as we see who this final opponent is going to be moving into the or who's the final contestant that's going to advance into the semifinals. You know, every time I queue into a game and I see a Gyalis Mushuk opener, it just makes me the happiest person I've ever been. Mushuk, just one of my favorite Tims to watch. Gyalis, such a cool, great design with such a great move set available to it. It just feels good. It feels good.
Yeah, truly. I also really like both of these Tems, so can only second that. I also want to give a quick heads up. We have now you can cast your vote for which game you want to see in the semifinal in the Twitch chat. So do so and tell us what you want to see in the next round.
Dan, can we get Flowmaster versus Nilo up on stream so the people can watch while we wait for the next round of for the semifinals to progress? Okay. Just letting everybody know on the stream, it looks like we're going to be jumping into the semifinals actually. So I will prepare myself to watch that, or to spectate that game, as we will have Tsubaki-chan versus Ice Red. And like you were saying, Mad Stats, Ice Red going 6-0 inside of the Swiss rounds, and Tsubaki-chan, we already saw them on stream. They're heavy damage openers and just high pressure starts. We should have a heck of a game coming up for us.
Yeah, definitely a match that seems to be really exciting. I'm also really excited to see which comp Ice Red is pulling up here, because he is undefeated. I mean, he got 2-1 against Solaris, but still, you know what I mean. And I gotta watch that from the sidelines though, as Potestas will come in and take the spot here, take over. So yeah, big shout out. Thanks for having to cast the game here, Kennedy. Was always a pleasure with you, and good luck with the oncoming games here on Temporium GG at the Fellow Tamers Cup.
All right, yeah, and we will see you later, Mad Stats. Always great to cast games with you. Everybody, we've got more great Temtem action coming up for you as we move into the semifinals of the Fellow Tamers Little Cup number 2. Stick around with us. We're going to take a very quick break as we switch out our casting staff. Welcome back to the Fellow Tamers Little Cup number 2, brought to you by Temporium GG. I'm Presby Kennedy. Joined with me is Fabi. Fabi, tell the people how you're doing.
Hello, Presby. I'm doing fantastic, actually. And yeah, my name is Protestas, aka Fabi, and I will be here and cast with you the semifinals and finals, and I'm really happy to do so. Some amazing games in the quarterfinals, so yeah, stoked to be here and really excited.
I lost my breath on some of those games where I was just like, I don't understand the decisions being made. Oh my goodness gracious! So I am ready to see like the rest of this tournament too. We are going to have, let's see, Tsubaki-chan versus Ice Red coming up. And as soon as we're able to spectate those games, we'll have them up on stream for you. Fabi, do you know anything about these two players, or do you have any insight for the set?
I mean, I do think they are starting right now. So, well, we have seen Tsubaki-chan on stream, right? He's with a more aggressive line here, as we see, for example, this Tadaru for him coming clutch. And we have Ice Red here, his opponent, that only lost one game, and that was in the best of 3 here in the quarterfinals. So his team seems to be very on point this time around. So I'm excited to see what Tsubaki-chan can bring against that.
All right, going into the bans for game 1. Ice Red banned out Gyalis, but Tsubaki-chan didn't do the gentleman's Gyalis ban, as he instead banned Ukama. And Ice Red, I'm already calling it, has won this game. The cosmetic game is on point, and the player's probably dabbing in their seat right now.
Well, to be fair though, Tsubaki-chan has not 1, not 2, but 3 temps that can compete against Gyalis in his Raiken, Mestion, and the Tadaru as well with a Stone Ball. And he picked it here in the very beginning as well. So, also we have seen some other comms using, for example, a Valesh that kind of fits a similar role as Gyalis, obviously being special attacking instead of Gyalis' physical. But you want to Kino buff it as well. You want to Madness buff or Heat up in these cases, buff up this attack. So Tsubaki-chan saying, well, I'm kind of prepared for these crystal types. Well, I have 2 fires, so, and we have seen in the last game, he can just, get out 2 fire types, and suddenly the crystal types aren't that good anymore.
Ice Red picking up a Gyalis Kinu start as Tsubaki picks up a Teteru Mastion, and just like you called, both of those are going to be such great answers to put pressure on Gyalis at the start of this game. The second ban's going on to Whiplump on Ice Red's side, and Raiken on Tsubaki-chan, Rise on Tsubaki-chan's side, and Pigapex being picked up for both Tamers respectively, and Volarin being picked up for Tsubaki-chan. And Volarin being picked up for Ice Red too.
Yeah, and here we can see Tsubaki-chan saying, well, I can bring in this Mastion, and suddenly when I ban out your water types, I'm in a pretty good spot here. You can't hide to Uchiha return, and sometimes it will not one-shot, so, take my fire types, and here we are.
The final 2 Tims being Mushuk for Ice Red and Grandpa for Tsubaki-chan. The Grandpa, the first time we're seeing it on stream get through for this tournament so far, at least for us. And the Protector buff going off turn 1 for Ice Red. What are we looking for here, Fabi?
Well, Ice Red has a very difficult decision here because, well, he probably wants to swap out both of these Temps. Gyalis cannot freely heat up. There's just too much pressure from Tadaru, from Mastion. And if Tsubaki-chan reads a swap here from the Gyalis, well, the Kino just doesn't eat Embers well at all. And the Tadaru has access to Noxious Bomb as well. So that means that the Kino might just die outright as well from both of these Temps. So I expect a double swap here from Ice Red. Or like a 50-50 gamble, we will see. If that works out for him, and Tsubaki-chan, well, kind of needs to deal with that and prepare for that for the double swap, and needs to look what to do and what temps are good in that situation.
Yeah, Tsubaki-chan has Ice Red's number with this opener. I didn't think about it until you said it, but yeah, the amount of pressure coming from that Teteru on both of these Tims having access to Stoneball, having access to Noxious Bomb, and the same thing with the Mastion. I would not be surprised if this Gyalis and Kinu are quivering in their seats. Gyalis for Ice Red swapping out, Mushuk swapping into that Gyalis' spot. The Kinu with a Beta Burst, opting to be the one to stay in, Beta Bursting onto that Teteru. That damage is going to be so much. The perfect jab going down onto that Kinu, and the Embers being right onto the Kinu, that the Kinu's not staying in turn 1. Tim is down.
Yeah, and this is why I said, well, Ice Red took a gamble here. Only swapping out one Tim leads the other one to, well, stay on the field and being very pressured by Tsubaki-chan's Temps here. And Tsubaki-chan, well, took a gamble as well, basically saying which slot I want to focus on. And, well, here we are. He focused the correct slot, and suddenly Ice Red has lost his Kino turn 1. Now, that means not only, he's up one Tem, which is generally very good, right? But also, the Kino can't use protector buffs by swapping in and out anymore. So the Gyalis is at +1/+1, yeah, sure. But he hasn't heated up yet. So, well, there's no immediate pressure from the Gyalis. Or at least not that much. And that means also his Tadaru, his Mastion from Tsubaki-chan's side, still well equipped to deal with it.
And I just want to say, real quick too, that we did see Tsubaki-chan pick up a Grandpa. So losing a Kinu that early is sucky, but that is a whole nother hill that Ice Red's going to have to climb as Bully activates for the number of Tims on a team, not the number of Tims on the field. So if Grandpa comes to the field right now, that Bully is online, and Tsubaki-chan recognizing that he has the ability there. Grandpa coming out, the Teteru with a turbo choreography, Mushuk with the Urushalo onto the Grandpa's not going to deal much damage, but those poison ticks are going to help out. Volarin with the Noxious Bomb trying to get that Grandpa out of here before it can take advantage of its abilities.
Did you say Urushalo?
I never know how to pronounce that. I say Urushalo.
Well, it's an Urushilo as anyways, because, well, this Grandpa will survive at 1.6% of its HP once this poison ticks are, gone. And, so in 3 turns, Grandpa is probably dead. So, Ice Red having a really good read on Tsubaki-chan this time around. Turn 2, turn 1 really good for Tsubaki-chan. Now, turn 3 really good for Ice Red. And just like that, we have, an even game, sort of, again.
Yeah, this game can go in any direction. The Grandpa being such an integral part of a Hypnosis turbo strategy that even Ice Red losing that Kinu this early, you can respond with taking out a Grandpa. It's, again, anybody's game.
Yeah, you have talked before, and this very much applies to heat up Gyalis and Madness Buffalash, as well as these Grandpas and Pigapix. You kind of need to be a little bit more proactive and, maybe predict some things. Tadaru could have died, quote-unquote, here as well from Urushio. Don't let these setups come through. Don't let your opponent set up and take over the game. And Ice Red did that perfectly here. So
swapping in for Ice Red here. The Hyperkinetic Strike from Grandpa going on to the Volarin, but it's only going to deal just a little bit over 30%, as it deals 33%. The Teteru with a major slash onto the Volarin 2 is going to bring it down to 19%, but the Volarin lives. A Hyperkinetic onto the Grandpa, coupled with those poison ticks, that Grandpa is out of here in 2 turns.
Yeah, and as I said, just like that, we have a very low HP Grandpa here, and Tsubaki-chan realized that and used his Hyperkinetic Strike accordingly, because, well, as you can see, there's only 2 turns left for this Grandpa. Well, on the opposing side, though, well, Ice Red kind of expected the Hypnosis that we see here currently, as the Volarin is pretty low.
Yeah, Hypnosis going down onto the Pigapek, the Pigapek being outsped by it, the Volaran with the Noxious Bomb going to go onto the Teteru, and that is a scary thought as the Teteru chooses to get some rest, but that Grandpa has another turn to Hyperkinetic before it dies.
So this Virulent dealt exactly 12.4% of damage to this Grandpa, which is not more than one poison tick, so well, it basically did just, a little bit, and therefore basically a wasted attack, as the amount of turns the Grandpa lives is not diminished by one. And suddenly...
Yeah, I don't want to look at this next turn. I just want to close my eyes. Somebody else come on and cast it.
Well, I do think we can expect a Hyperkinetic Strike from this Grandpa here. It is +2 speed, and therefore this Hyperkinetic Strike, as we have seen, deals a lot of damage. This Virulent, or basically any switching in that slot, doesn't really appreciate that, so having that option leaves the Tadru here now. The Tadru can rest. You can have a free switch in as well. Maybe swap in the Bastion for the Tadru to kind of scare the Gialis. So Tsubaki-chan here in a still really good situation, coming from that really good turn 3 from Ice Red, clawing his way back in.
Yeah, and like you said, just a really, really close match on either side of one person being out of it and pushing their way back, and another person being out of it and pushing their way back in. This Volaran's got to be singing some song as this Grandpa comes with a Hyperkinetic Strike onto the Volaran, and that is going to be enough to take it out. The Volaran is down. The Grandpa is going to die from the poison. A perfect jab onto the Pigapek is going to wake up the Pigapek. Is not going to wake up the Pigapek because of Tataru's soft touch, and the Grandpa dies to the poison tick.
2 Tems down here in this turn, but that very much features a good situation here for Tsubaki-chan. He's up 1 Tem, and well, the Pigapek got his defense diminished right now as well. So with the Tadru still being out, it's probably not that likely we see a Gialis just yet. You might even see
until something can come out for that Tataru. Mushuk swapping in, and Bastion swapping in for Tsubaki.
I just wanted to point out that Tsubaki might just be very safe here and try to swap in the Bastion. So in the case of Ice Red swapping in that Gialis, he's immediately forced to swap out again, and with that Pigapek at -1 defense, this is still a very good attack from Tadru or Bastion into that.
Yeah, and until Ice Red can set up a situation for that Gialis, I just want to stress to everybody watching, the Gialis, I don't believe, has spent a turn on the field. I don't think it has Hido online, and I don't believe it's got its Heat Up online either.
No, both of these are facts and correct.
The Teteru with a major slash onto the Pigapek gonna deal so much damage with the help of that perfect jab. The Hypnosis going down onto the Bastion. The Pigapek outspeeding the Bastion, buying it a turn of time, and that Teteru is dead to an uppercut from the Musha.
Well, it was about time for this Tadru. It overexerted, actually could attack after overexerting. Stayed here on the field from basically turn 1, and that's 6 turns of doing something like Noxious Bomb and not that Major Slash, which are high stamina moves. They have high stamina costs, so a little bit of recoil damage here and there. Brought it pretty low, and Tsubaki-chan now has a quote-unquote free switch in for his Virulent. Should fare very well against this Mushuk.
Yeah, one of my favorite answers for Gialis and Bastion is just being able to Hido it when it has no speed buffs. Gives Gialis just a little bit of wiggle room in that situation. So we'll see what is going to happen here for Ice Red as he debates what to do with this Pigapek and Mushuk. What plays do you see for Ice Red here? Because I feel like even though it's 3 Tims to 3 Tims, I feel like Tsubaki's kind of got the upper hand here. As the Bamboozle goes off on the Mushuk with a perfect jab onto the Volarin's going to lower the Volarin's defense, and the Volarin with the Noxious Bomb onto the Pigapek slot is going to kill the Pigapek. And the Volarin slowly starts charging up that anaerobic, but the Fainted Curse is going to deal so much damage to it. And Gyalis swaps in for Ice Red, as Ice Red's down to their last 2 Tims, but boy, is it a dynamic duo.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on that as well. I do think Ice Red needed like maybe 1 or 2 turns on this Pigapig because, well, the Valorant now got damaged quite a bit, and that still is not in range, I think, for an uppercut from this Mashuk. And with that being said, this Mastion is really threatening right now.
Oh, go ahead.
So, this Mastion has access to Meteor Swarm, which is a very high-powered move, and it might survive a perfect jab and a Crystal Bite. And Gyal should move first anyway, so, Vulnerant will live as well, so, there's a lot of chip damage coming for the Gyalis here.
Gyalis with the heat up, banking on that 1 protector buff from Kinu to survive this terrifying force that Volarin and Mastion can put down. Volarin with the Feather Gatling onto the Gyalis, not going to deal a huge amount of damage, only 20%. And Embers from the Mastion is going to deal a good chunk of damage. Is that 40%? 41%?
About that, I do think it's about 40%. So, especially with the fear of a Meteor Swarm, that could mean that the Gyalis might just die this round. On the other hand, though, Tsubaki-chan might just swap out here, expecting a Hachiuchi.
Tsubaki-chan swapping out the Mastion. Volarin with a Hyperkinetic, outspeeding the Mushuk, putting some good damage down on the Mushuk before the Mushuk ends its life. A Haidouchi on the Pigapek, going to deal well over half its HP. The Mushuk with an uppercut onto the Volarin, and the Volarin is out of here. And the
Funny enough, this actually helps Tsubaki-chan.
Yeah, like that Haido being spent on the Pigapek.
As well as the quote-unquote free swap in for this Mastion. Imagine the Volaran here staying in. The Volaran does not really threaten the Gyalis, but and we have seen the Mashuk as well. So suddenly this Mastion would need to swap in here. It actually sacrifices itself.
Yeah, the Gyalis takes out the Pigapek before it can deal any sort of silly damage. A Meteor Swarm from the Mashuk, but its Parrier is going to help it tank that. But the Pyromaniac tacks on a little bit of extra damage. I have Mashuk on my side of the screen with 3% stamina, but I think it should be able to use a move as the Mashuk takes an Embers, but I guess it takes a rest.
It should be at about 34% now.
Yeah, the Mashuk with a uppercut, but it's not going to be enough to kill this Mastion before the poison, or before the burn takes it out, and the Mashuk is down. It literally coming down to the wire for these 2 Tamers as game 1 goes to Tsubaki-chan in these semifinals.
Yeah, I want to very quickly go over the last 2 turns here, or last 3 turns here. So Ice Red attacking his the Valorant with the uppercut, killing it. So therefore, the Mastion of Tsubaki-chan could come in and attack on the very next turn, and this advantage for him actually makes it so he just have enough damage for this last standing Tem from Ice Red. So I do think Ice Red could have won here, but instead should have tried to kill the Pigapig with the what's the name, Mashuk.
Yeah.
And therefore the Therefore, it wouldn't be that much damage coming from the Gialis, but he maybe could have just rested or something, and then basically forcing a switch if Tsubaki-chan wants to attack with his Bastion, or if he just leaves in the Vulnerant, it would just die to a Sharp Steps or something along these lines, and I do think this would have set him up in a better position than with a trade on the Pick-a-Pick here.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things with those one-hold moves like Hyperkinetic and like Haito, when you have them on such a fast Tim, is that they are an insane amount of pressure that your opponent can't do anything while you have those moves online, but the second you spend it and you don't spend it on the target that it needs to hit, it's just free 99 for the next turn for any Tim that comes out.
So we will see if Ice Red wants to maybe have a little bit different approach to pick and bans here, as well. The Tadaru and Bastion proved very effective here for Tsubaki-chan.
All right, we are getting into game 2 of Ice Red versus Tsubaki-chan. Tsubaki-chan is up 1-0 over Ice Red, and Tsubaki-chan has decided to ban Ukama again as the opening ban, as it is currently Ice Red's ban, and they are debating a Pick-a-Peck ban.
Yeah, very interesting, but I do think Tsubaki-chan has such a good lineup against Ice Red's team here currently. Ice Red being a little bit weak to fire, and Tsubaki-chan really exploiting that weakness basically. And part of why Tsubaki-chan is so comfortable in this matchup as well is because Ice Red features a anaerobic Valorant, and Tsubaki-chan has not that much special attackers, so he doesn't really care about the special defense boosts that the Valorant gets. And, Embers and, Stoneballs or whatever will still deal a lot of damage.
Going into the second round of bans, Ice Red has picked up Whiplump and Gyalis. Tsubaki-chan has picked up Gyalis and Kinu, and I believe this is going to be our first time seeing Tsubaki-chan use Gyalis, as Ice Red has decided to ban Pick-a-Peck off of Tsubaki-chan's side of the field. It is now Tsubaki-chan's ban, as they are hovering a 2-Vine ban.
Very interesting, because, I would have thought that the anaerobic Valorant of Tsubaki-chan's side isn't really that threatening for Ice Red. I mean, the Mashuk can, perfect jape, and uppercut, and that should deal a lot of damage. You got the 2-Vine, which is, on paper, one of the best one-on-one counters to that anaerobic Valorant, and instead I would have liked him to maybe ban out a fire type.
Yeah, sitting here, Tsubaki-chan is definitely taking their time, finally deciding to ban out the Pick-a-Peck, not letting any of that crazy bamboozle or hypnosis play go off, and a Rise picked up for Tsubaki-chan, and for Ice Red, a Mushuk and a Volarin.
Yeah, and I feel like Ice Red can't really pick his 2-Vine here, even though he kind of wants to. But in the prime target in the anaerobic Valorant, he has banned out anyways, so it wouldn't be that effective here anyways. And obviously with Tsubaki-chan having still access to both of his fire attempts.
Yeah, and I wanna correct myself earlier. That is not a Rise. That is a Raiken on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field.
Yeah, I might just rub it and copy TR your take. Yes, I do think I said Rise as well, but that is a Raiken, and Tsubaki-chan really wants this Raiken because, it is a little bit more tanky and has a little bit more pressure, a little bit more attack here. And, everybody loves Sweatband, so why not have it on the field when the Raiken is there?
I've never seen a Whiplump Gyalis opener. Whiplump with so many hold moves makes me just really curious of what it can do starting out a match.
Well, for starters, it can Cold Breeze, and this would mean that the as its speed tiers of both Whiplump and Tsubaki's Gialis will come into play here, as he might just be able to, Cold Breeze, and therefore this Gialis will be frozen in the second and third turn. And second of all, Ice Red really wanted this Whiplump as it is his second water attempt, and basically his only fighting chance against these fire types of Tsubaki-chan. So it was much more a priority pick than, well, this is like the perfect Tem for the situation.
Yeah, a lot of thought going into this first turn, as there are so many options for these Tamers available. Reading moves, swapping in Tims, setting up your Gialis, or trying to prevent the other one from setting up. Really goes to show some of the decisions that need to be made to get you into the rest of this match. The beta burst from the Kinu going onto the Whiplump, dealing just a little bit of damage. The heat up from the Gialis going on each of these Gialises, which is very interesting that Kinu outsped them. And the Whiplump from Ice Red side is going to start that Cold Breeze, but that resistance is only going to allow one turn of being frozen. And the Gialis outspeeds the Whiplump, even with, I think, Plethoric.
I mean, I literally have seen so many Gialises, and I still always neglect the resistant trait of it. But yeah, this...
you and Ice Red both.
Well, it's still a good turn here, because, well, if this Whiplump would actually be faster, well, the Gialis would, be kind of dead to Ice Red's Gialis, but instead, well, we have seen Tsubaki-chan's Gialis not only being faster than the Whiplump, but also Tsubaki-chan's Gialis being faster than Ice Red's, and with Tsubaki-chan holding the speed arrow, that means this turn as well, Tsubaki-chan's Gialis will move first and pose a real huge threat towards Ice Red's team.
Yeah, and just for chat, to let everybody know how that speed arrow works, blue side starts off with it, and if there's ever a speed tie, it goes to whoever has the arrow, and then it swaps sides. So that arrow staying on Tsubaki-chan's side means that this Gialis is faster than Ice Red's Gialis. There was no speed tie. It has some sort of speed investment that has moved it up in the turn order.
Exactly, so, it might get frozen, but only for one turn and after it attacked, so...
And the Gialis with the priority sharp stabs going onto the enemy Gialis, and another priority tornado going down on the Gialis, trying to throw out as much damage as possible. And Kinu with Hypnosis going down onto the enemy, or onto Ice Red's Gialis. There's so much Gialis on Gialis action. A Crystal Bite going down onto the Whiplump. And that Whiplump is out of here.
Well, what an interesting turn here. Both of these players going for a little bit interesting route and very offensive route. Ice Red obviously kind of, cutting his losses almost, as he says, well, I'm in a little bit of a bad spot, so I might just go with it and try and make the best of it. Attacks with Sharp Saves and Tornado and bringing this Gialis pretty low. On the other side, obviously losing the Whiplump, and now Tsubaki-chan's Gialis still is faster, and therefore a Haitouchi might do some damage, as well as just sharp steps.
Yeah, and a Haidouchi onto the Kinu slot of something swapping out there, or even a sharp stabs if the Kinu stays in. That Kinu is just, that whole slot is just looking pretty juicy for Tsubaki-chan right now.
But on the other side, you have to consider, again, with the resistant, that means that there won't be a sleep turn for Ice Red's Gialis, so he might be able to finish off Tsubaki-chan's one if he doesn't sort it out.
Yeah, Teteru swapping in for Tsubaki-chan and Mushuk swapping in for Ice Red. that Gyalis turning tail and running for Tsubaki-chan as Raikan swaps in for Tsubaki-chan, and that Haido Uchi is going to deal a huge amount of damage, but that energy drink is revealed even though it's on a swap-in. That's going to let Ice Red know there's going to be no hypnosis play they can do with this Raikan. It's here, and it's ready to throw out damage.
Exactly, and Tsubaki-chan realizing that his Gyalis might be dead. He can't one-shot the opposing Gyalis, so swapping out. And Ice Red, well, a little bit like last game, was in a bad spot here in the first couple of turns, but now with the turn 3 again, having kind of decent turn, you know, half the HP bar of the Raikan gone, kind of reset the board, so he's in an okay spot again.
Yeah, the Voloran swapping out for Ice Red and the Urashi going on to Raikan, and Teteru with a perfect jab onto the Voloran is going to make this Meteor Swarm chunk for a good bit of damage. So the Voloran dropped to 50% of its HP. The Mushuk's Barrier allowing it to tank that really well. I do want to say though, there was a switch on the speed tie arrow, so I think both of the Kinus have the same speed investment when they swapped out. That Ice Red might be running a fast Kinu too.
Yeah, for sure. These Kinus obviously know hypnosis, so with that, you want to usually go up to 129 speed, because that outspeeds max speed Pig-a-Pig, as we see. More Roshi lulz.
Yeah, poison ticks being thrown onto the Teteru from the Mushuk. The Voloran with the Noxer Spam onto the Raikan, and the Raikan is done this turn. And Embers onto the Voloran, and a Teteru with a major slash. That's going to be so much stamina burn just for a little bit of HP, but getting that Voloran out of here is going to benefit Tsubaki-chan in the long run, as the Raikan is also knocked out. And that is a 3-Tem to 4-Tem game.
Yeah, Ice Red still, suffering a little bit from the early Whiplump loss, but, as I said, his turn 4 was great, his turn 3 was great, and with this Taru now ticking down from 3 poison ticks as well, he has made so much value from just having this Valorant here. Tsubaki-chan invested a lot of resources into that. The Mushuk relatively healthy as well, so that means, well, he can still fight back, and no matter what comes in here now as well, might be pressured a little bit.
Yeah, both of these Tamers have decisions to make. I think this is kind of like the who goes for the gun first and the Mexican standoff of, I feel like Gyalis for both of these Tamers are really good options. And Tsubaki-chan realizing that, throwing in Maschio to counter the Gyalis swap in as Gyalis comes in under the threat of this Mastion.
Yeah, and we have seen Perfect Jab plus Embers kill the Kinu last game. And I'm pretty sure that he wants to do exactly that. There's a chance that a Haido Uchi can make this Taru sleep for the turn, but, the Gyalis would still eat a Embers, which is, not really optimal, to say the least. And the Mushuk itself doesn't really do much here on this field, so, Ice Red really back to the war here right now. Needs to make some crucial and good decisions here in order to come back.
The Mushuk swapping out for Ice Red. Kinu swapping in, going to get that protector buff off on this Gyalis, trying to make it live as long as possible. A Crystal Bite going down on the Teteru, not going to be enough to kill it, as the poison will have to tick for 2 turns. The Embers coming out from the Mastion onto the Gyalis. That Gyalis is at... As the Gyalis takes a Stone Ball from the Teteru with the synergy, is going to burn it as it's down to 31% HP, but its stamina on my screen is bugged, and I believe it should be at 15%.
Well, I don't really know about Teteru's stamina. Gyalis should be pretty accurate, but it will die from poison anyway next turn, so overexerting is a real possibility here. Now,
Yeah.
very interestingly here, this Gyalis did not swap out, and Tsubaki-chan with a nice read on that because, well, there was not a perfect jab on the Gyalis. There was a stone ball. And despite, Kino coming in with that protector buff, mitigating a lot of damage, this Gyalis now looks really damaged.
Yeah, the Gyalis swapping out for Ice Red. Mushuk coming in to take its place. Kinu with the Hypnosis going to move faster than everything here, putting that Mastion to sleep. The Teteru with a major slash going down onto that Mushuk. But the Mushuk's parrier is going to allow it to tank that pretty well as the Teteru overexerts to deal the damage, and the Teteru is gone. It is now 3 Tims to 2 Tims. The game is, or is that 4? That should be 4 or 3 to 3 currently.
That should be 3 to 3. And with
the
that,
game, again, go ahead, Fabi.
that Raiken of Tsubaki-chan, kind of crucial actually here in that particular slot. It had the energy drink, and with that being gone, the Gyalis can hide to Uchi any slot here, and that should give Ice Red an out here for this game. Tsubaki-chan not able to capitalize perfectly, or basically Ice Red not giving any opportunity to have a good last turn, and now it's a little bit in the driver's seat.
Mushuk swapping out. Gyalis coming in to take its place. Kinu with the Revitalize, and this is free 99 for Ice Red. Beta Burst from the Kinu onto the Gyalis, and that is going to just deal a little tickle of damage. The Mastion is awake, and it is now alerted as it has one turn where it cannot be put to sleep. Put to sleep.
Well, obviously Ice Red wanted to really swap out this Mushuk, as a Beta Burst would have done a lot of damage, being super effective, obviously. And now we have this situation that I explained previously. A Haito Uchi from the Gyalis just looks very good in after the after this alerted turn from that Mastion. So if the Gyalis can move 2 turns in a row here, maybe with the Crystal Bite into that Kino and then Haito Uchi into that Mastion, that just might push Ice Red in a situation where he cannot lose anymore.
Yeah, Ice Red really thinking about this turn too, as I think Tsubaki-chan is considering it. Tsubaki-chan has that Revitalize online too for their Gyalis, but no real opportunity to use it here. Staring down this online. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Ice Red should have his Revitalize as well, and therefore the Gyalis, despite being at 34% now, is a little bit more healthy than you actually might think. As well, the Revitalize, obviously that health goes up, and an Embers will do a little bit of damage, granted, but nowhere near to actually safely killing it.
Yeah, we'll see what these Tamers decide as Gyalis swaps out again for Ice Red. Mushuk swaps in to occupy that slot. Kinu with a Beta Burst onto the Mushuk slot. Reading that swap is going to deal a big chunk of damage. Kinu responding in turn with a Beta Burst onto that Mastion. And the Mastion taking a little bit of damage from that. And a Meteor Swarm going down on both Tims is going to be enough to knock out the Mushuk, but not
So
the
much
Kinu.
damage.
And that Fire Chip Pyromaniac Mastion Meteor Swarm. Good heebie-jeebie.
Holy, that was a turn. Tsubaki-chan with that Meteor Swarm, and obviously he read that swap in from that from that Mushuk in that slot. So, Mastion with an AoE attack, not really caring about that a whole lot, but that Beta Burst from Kino into that slot where Gyalis sits now. That was such a good move here.
Gyalis is still at 13% stamina on my screen, and I think that should be closer to like 50 or 60. So,
It's
just want to point that out
30
to the
probably.
viewers.
Was only one turn, so it's probably like 25 or 30 or something.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, Kinu with the hypnosis, spectator bugs aside, the hypnosis outspeeding the Mastion, and the Kinu responding with a beta burst onto the enemy Kinu, and that is going to be enough to take this Kinu out, as it is now Ice Red's Gyalis against 3 Tims, and a Crystal Bite has taken out Tsubaki-chan's Kinu, as this Gyalis is now staring down 2 enemy Tims, trying to keep Ice Red inside of this series, trying to make this a 1-1 series so that they can progress to the finals, but it's not looking so hot for Ice Red.
I do think Tsubaki-chan kind of wins here, and the reason for that is, well, this Mastion is asleep currently, but now there will be sharp steps, and probably sharp steps flying as well. Killing
Alice knocked out and overexerting to do so. Ice Red's Gyalis is now staring down Tsubaki-chan's Mastion, and the Mastion is alert and staring back. I wonder what decision there is to be made here. A mean meteor swarm coming down, and that is going to give game 2 to Tsubaki-chan.
Yeah, coming in clutch here, and in this last 2 turns here, we could see that Tsubaki-chan planned that out quite well. The Gyalis was killed by the sharp steps of Ice Red, but only because, well, it overexerted. So, therefore, obviously, this meant that, well, this Mastion was in a very nice position, just attack bonds, basically, and, well, he got the victory, and what a clean 2-0 here.
Yes, that was a very, very, very good play by Tsubaki-chan, recognizing they had strategies to deal with the Gyalis, letting the Gyalis through in each game, the Teterus being picked up in every situation to be able to throw down that those perfect jabs and those stone balls, like, just clean. I think that's the best description we can give for Tsubaki-chan's play there. Great game.
I mean, we saw last week Tsubaki-chan with a really nice performance as well. So he is really adapting to this meta. He was a very huge threat in a club war as well. He just brings out so many good teams that are a little bit besides the beaten path, but yeah, really good. And quick shout out to Pet Farm and it's Gajin Boo. Pet Fam subbing, and Gajin Boo going crazy now with 4 gift subs. And welcome to everybody that comes here from Healthier. Welcome, we are currently in the semi-finals of this tournament.
Yeah, thank you for the raid, Healthier. I just want to do a quick little self-plug, and a thank you to It's Gajin Blue. I co-host a Tim Talk podcast. It's called Tim Talk. You can find it on any podcasting app. It's also on YouTube. Gajin Blue actually just guest starred on it, and we talked about Nuzlocke mode and interesting Temtem tournaments. We're going to cast the game of Prodi versus Flowmaster right now, and just like I always said, I always love queuing into a game and seeing a Mashuk Gyalis on a team. They're 2 of my favorite Tims to see. I'm a huge fan of the melee typing, and my hype is ready. Bobby, do you have that game pulled up?
Yes, I have, and especially when this just, can come through so easily. It seems very easy here for Prodi. It's really threatening, as perfect jab into some crystal physical move will deal a lot of damage.
Tim podcast play of the game. So Kinu swapping in here on the side of Flowmaster. Prodi with that Gyalis heating up, and Mushuk with a perfect jab onto the enemy Mushuk. The parry are going to make that deal barely any damage, but the defense drop is what's more important here. Pressing X to get a look at this battle log. Flowmaster is on the bottom side of this hill with Volaran down and Vlash already being taken out.
Yeah, and she probably had tried to make this Vlash work, but no Kino buffs. It seems like he pretty much went naked or started with Volaran Vlash, something like that. And on Prodi's side here, well, this Gyalis just heated up, so maybe he started with Valorant and something else as well. maybe Valorant Mashuk. So his Gialis now finally with a heat up, but this Mashuk of Flowmaster's side got a lot of love from protector buffs.
Yeah, Kinu swapping out, Pigapek swapping in, that Pigapek taking the sharp stabs, and Gialis on Prade's side taking a perfect jab from the Mashuk, but the Mashuk on Prade's side is throwing out more perfect jabs, and Flowmaster is doing everything he can, swapping in this Kinu in and out to try and negate all of these perfect jabs, because Mashuk's parrier makes it a very dependable tank, and if you can't depend on it to take a physical move, is there anything in the world that you can depend on?
Well, Flowmaster now has to his last 2 attempts, and that means, well, this Kino is probably going to die. Sharp Steps, I do think, still available for Prodi, and despite the Mashuk being buffed up and ready to take the final killing blow onto Prodi's Gialis, will just not be there in time.
Yeah, I feel like this Gialis can be singing a funeral dirge for the Kinu, as actually the Gialis decides to swap out the Volcrane coming in to take the spot. The Beta Burst from the Kinu onto the Mashuk is going to deal a nice little chunk of damage, bringing it down to 43%. The Urashi going onto the Kinu, dealing a nice little chunk of damage too. Not going to be enough to kill it in 2 turns though.
Yeah, but with Volcrane here, an Embers should most certainly take out this Kino, so there might be one last Beta Burst coming from that Kino, but after that, I do think Flowmaster needs to face the situation of only 1 Temp standing.
Uppercut from Volcrane from Mashuk onto the Volcrane. Flowmaster's Kinu with another Beta Burst onto the Mashuk, but it's not going to be enough to kill, as the Mashuk also tries to kill that Kinu, and Embers coming out from the Volcrane is going to be enough to do it, and finally end that Kinu's life, as Flowmaster is now down to their last Tim, an incredibly healthy Mashuk.
Yeah, it is at +1 defense, which is well, the most important stat here, as Prodi still has a whip room, but the other Temps are physical based. But again, this Mashuk will face stamina problems, and well, he is only to 1 Temp, so there will be coming 2 attacks each turn.
The Mashuk with another perfect jab, and Extinction coming down. 4 turns or not, you have to get rid of 4 Tims here, Mashuk, before it is game over. But instead, Flowmaster's Mashuk decides to rest, as that turn timer slowly ticks down. Now you just got to do it for the hype. Take out Tims left and right, and just don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Well, I mean, Prodi has 4 Temps left, so and this Mashuk only has 3 turns, so you know, it's a little bit unlikely, let's say, that Flowmaster can come back here, as Vulcran actually gets some rest.
All right, one down. 2 turns to go and 3 Tims left. And Mashuk's attacking into one of its biggest counters. Let's go.
Let's go.
Hype.
Well,
Yeah, as we see,
that was the. Oh wait, what? Probably styling a little bit here.
we see this Mashuk taking on Flowmaster's side, trying to take down 3 enemy Tims, but that Extinction is going off this turn no matter what happens. This game is going to be in favor of probably the Urashi going down onto the Whip Lump, and Flowmaster just scratching the headband of Prodi here. As this game goes in favor of Prodi, I am uncertain of the current set as we just tuned in for that game.
Yeah, maybe Havoc can help us out here in the chat, as he might have some insight in what this overall standing is here between Prodi and Flowmaster.
Yeah, somebody asked in the chat, is it BM to stay in at this point? It's like, no, you do it for the hype. That's That's why you stay in at those points.
I mean, to be fair though, Prodi did BM quite a bit. He used the Sharp Brain as well as the Stone Ball, the least effective attacks onto the Mashuk that he can, force out, that he can choose basically. So, I mean, it was basically undoable. There's no chance, 0% that Flomasa could come back here. So,
all right. We just got an update on that game. It is 2-0 for Prodi. So our finals for this Little Tamers this tournament is going to be Tsubaki-chan versus Prodi for the Fellow Tamers Little Cup number 2. And we will be getting into those finals really, really soon. Oh, this is going to be an exciting final match.
This is going to be exciting. So, go take a little quick toilet break. Restock on your crisps and chips. Restock on your beverages. And we will be right back with the final.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fellow Tamers Little Cup. We are in the finals, and they're brought to you by Temporium GG. I'm Pres B. Kennedy, joined by Fabi. Fabi, want to tell the people what's up?
Thank you very much, Kennedy. Well, the final is up, and we have seen that Tsubaki-chan had a really strong showing here with his double fire. And we have seen Prodi just basically annihilating Flowmaster. And, said us that sounds welcome everybody from Flowmaster's stream here. Thank you for the raid.
Yeah, I want to say
congrats on a
Flowmaster too.
Congrats on a 3rd to 4th place, but Prodi really looking very strong in that match. So I'm really excited to see these guys going at each other. And well, I do think we have seen very interesting, very close games so far today. So nothing about like Resident Sleeper meta at all. So I'm quite excited for this final here.
One of our organizers jumping in and providing us with a little bit of information. Both these players that are going into our finals, Prodi and Tsubaki-chan, fought against each other last night in Plus OP's tournament, and I believe it was Tsubaki-chan and Prodi both fought. I believe Tsubaki-chan landed out on top of that victory. So kind of like a little grudge match going in here for round 2 for these two tamers.
But we will see. As I really want a quick shout out Perigano actually making sure to use his or her channel points. Yeah, there's 120 euros on the line here for the winner of this final. 60 for the 2nd place. So we will see who will take this prize money.
Both tamers are deciding the team that they are going to use, as they just did, and we are getting into game 1 of our finals for the Fellow Tamers Little Cup. And it is Prodi versus Tsubaki-chan, with Prodi in the blue and Tsubaki-chan in the yellow. First ban going to Prodi, as they are going through this team, and there are so many threats to Teru, Gyalis, Paharak, our Grandpa, and Pigapek opting to finally go with that Gyalis ban.
Oh, Prodi getting up his APM here a little bit in the ban phase, so he can more comfortably select moves while in game.
And Temtem gotta focus on the micro, not the macro.
For sure, dude. Prodi will get his Vulcan banned, and well, he's running 2 fire types as well, so that seems to work out in this week especially, and probably won't in the next week, but for this one, Prodi obviously has a little bit of the upper hand in his fire types, as the earth typing of Vulcan allows him to counteract against this Bastion, against this Raiken more easily.
Yeah, Tsubaki-chan picking up Teteru, and I just think one of the most beautiful things about Teteru, when you build a team around it, it's basically free, because it can't out-threat Gyalis in terms of like a sweeper, or Grandpa in terms of like how much it controls the game, which means it doesn't get banned. It always gets to be your first pick, and it deals so much damage with Whiplump and Kinu being picked up by Prodi.
Talking about so much damage, the beta burst of the Kinu actually being the only mental type that's kind of left over here from previous metas, as neither Mix nor Banshee enjoys much picks here, much participation in these matches. And with the beta burst of the Kinu, he can probably can kind of force this Taro out a little bit, dealing probably about 40% just with one beta burst.
Yeah, and the Teteru and Volaren being picked up for Tsubaki-chan as we go into our 2nd round of bans. It is Tsubaki-chan's turn to ban, hovering over the Mushuk, and we've already just seen, I feel like Mushuk is one of the MVPs of this tournament, along with Teteru, just doing so much work in these top 8.
Yeah, for sure. Mushuk is a tem that I eyed with personally as well, because just, Ursho being a good move when with synergy, but just, perfect jab and uppercut and Turbo Choreography on one Tem is such a good typing as well from this, toxic and fighting with the parry. Obviously, it just makes it such a versatile Tem when not facing basically wind special attackers, and the meta kind of slowed down. There's not much of these like Banshees that we have seen previously, for example, or aerobic Valorant. Sorry, my bad. So the slot got a little bit more freed up, and we see, when there's a slot for Mashuk, why you want to pick it? It's just versatile, and I've seen it do so much work for Prodi.
Yeah, and Pigapek being banned out on Prodi's side, and Tsubaki-chan's side, Grandpa being banned out. The access to easy synergized turbo choreography is going to be a little harder for these tamers, as Tsubaki-chan picks up Pigapek, and there'll be one option for him, and Prodi picks up Volorin.
Now we will see what the last Tem is here, and I would assume that Prodi wants to pick up is Rise. Rise being not only good, obviously, against the Kino that Tsubaki-chan might or might not pick up, but is kind of even against this Raiken. If he picks Gialis, he might have the overall more stronger pick, but with the Mastion, the Tadru, and now a potential Raiken from Tsubaki-chan, I can't see that being effective at all for Prodi's side. And indeed, he picks up the Rise.
And I will commend Tsubaki-chan for just how well they play the pick and ban phase. A lot of players getting mad at the difference between blue and gold side. Sometimes you can push your opponent into some really uncomfortable teams. And I just want to say, just looking at Prodi's team, unless that Volorin's aerobic, #where's the damage? Because that whip lump might be out of here real quick without a Gialis on the back burner. As we get into game 1 of our finals, Prodi versus Tsubaki-chan.
Yeah, Tsubaki always really good in the pick and ban as well, so you always need to really think about your choices. And Prodi on the blue side, being on the back foot, as with the counter pick for Tsubaki-chan, he's a little bit favored overall in the pick and ban from the sides here. Prodi managed to pick a good team, or has a fighting chance here of even footing in the teams. But one thing to keep in mind here is Tsubaki-chan's pressure of noxious bombs from turn 1. So there will be probably some noxious bomb thrown out here from Tsubaki-chan, and well, he has the Tems to deal with it, but that also means that he needs to swap out here in the very first turn. So same thing that we have seen previously, Tsubaki-chan has a really good turn 1.
Prodi swapping out that whip lump for a Mushuk. Kinu with the beta burst going on to that Teteru. And just like you said, that beta burst dealing 41% damage. The noxious bomb from the Volorin hitting that Kinu, bringing it down to 51.5% damage. A perfect jab from the Teteru onto the Mushuk, going to lower its defense, but Mushuk so physically defensive that hopefully that isn't going to matter much. But Prodi probably on the upside of this hill, looking to start climbing.
It could have been much worse actually here for Prodi, as with just one noxious bomb from the Sadoro into the Kino slot. When the Kino was probably in sacrifice range, if you want to say so. But well, now, I mean, the minus defense on the Mashuk kind of hurts, as we've seen Tsubaki not only having obviously Tadru, but also this Valorant is a physical attacker. This Mastion and the Raiken attacks physically, and Mashuk being the physical tank here for Prodi's side. Getting a lower defense load here might turn to be quite a good treat here for Tsubaki-chan in the later stages.
Yeah, and picking up that Rise, ideally, hopefully Prodi is running some type of Aurora on there to start getting these attack downs on this team, because we see it happen so often to anaerobic Volorins, that they just stay out all game long and keep throwing out all of the physical damage they possibly can. So if you can get just a few attack downs on them, it's going to just relieve a lot of pressure as Volorin swaps out for Prati, Teteru swapping out for Tsubaki-chan, Mastion swapping in, and Mushuk with Urushiol onto Mastion with those 4 stacks of poison. Feather Gatling coming out from Volorin, and with that defensive drop onto Mushuk, even with Parrier, it is such a chunk.
Yeah, and you have to consider Mushuk has one of the highest defenses in the game, just outright. Very good physical bulk, and the parry on top just means it takes a little bit more than just without the parry here. So no, that's quite a bit of damage considering the circumstances here, and that also means that this Volorin and Mastion might be able to end that Mushuk quite easily, maybe with a double down here. But from Prodi's side, you really have to think about, well, he used his Volorin Mushuk combination so well in all of these
the cage
games.
Coming out from Mastion, forcing the Mushuk to stay in and tank these hits from Volorin. The perfect jab going down onto the enemy Volorin as Feather Gatlings continue to rain side to side.
Well, just as I say that, this Mushuk does such a good amount of work. Well, we see a perfect jab here, and that means this Volorin of Tsubaki-chan will eat a lot of physical damage now again. So,
and trading this Mushuk for a Volorin, I have no idea if it's worth it, but we'll see. Prodi thinks so. It's kind of one of their only options right now.
Well, I don't know either, to be fair, but I do think overall this Mushuk did a lot of damage to the Mastion, and if he can trade with the Volorin here, and the Volorin stays relatively healthy, this Mushuk of Prodi's side should have done the damage that he needed to, or that it needed to, with the defense drop onto Volorin and all that's combined here.
And yeah, the Mushuk has access to turbo choreography in its kit, has access to perfect jab, which you can throw out before it dies, as I believe it was winning the speed tie, and it's going to need a hyperkinetic in order to stop it from getting one of these things off. And the Volorin on Tsubaki's side responding with just that, a hyperkinetic strike to take it out as the Mushuk is out of here. Feather Gatling from Prodi's Volorin is not going to be enough to take out Tsubaki-chan's Volorin, as an Ember is going to hit in and deal a bunch of damage between that Pyromaniac Fire Chip combo.
Yeah, Mastion being the strongest physical attacker, showing here why it's picked up by Tsubaki-chan. Usually these fire types kind of lack the, just firepower, let's say, and just lack a little bit damage, but with the fire chip, he kind of negates that in a way. And now with Prodi being, eating that with his Volorin, valuable damage from Tsubaki-chan's side, as Prodi looks to beef up this Volorin and maybe revitalize it. In return, though, he needs to worry about the attacks from Tsubaki-chan's side, and I don't know how he does it, but he didn't swap at all, but suddenly he's looking really good here on the field with a Noxious Bomb from Volorin and an Embers from Mastion. So with that being said, this Kino will might just receive a lot of damage if he doesn't swap it out.
Yeah, something important for Prodi here. One of his only options is to swap into this Rise, as Prodi chooses instead to swap into the Whip Lump, as the Toxic Plume is going to come out from Prodi's Volorin, outspeeding but not dealing enough damage with all those special defense drops. And Tsubaki-chan's Volorin dying for the cause with the Feather Gatling into Prodi's Volorin. And this Meteor Swarm coming out from Mastion, and the Pyromaniac Fire Chip combo again, just chunking so hard. But Volorin is still standing after all of that.
Yeah, the Protector buffs here coming really clutch, as we can see that Kino swap in and swap out. Basically, let this Wolverine survive here on Prody's side, and that means he can throw out another Feather Gatling, he can throw out another Noxious Bomb, and suddenly the Mastion doesn't look that good anymore. Prody is now on the has the upper hand here. Whiplump being able to freeze combo somebody, especially now as well with the option for a Tsunami with Wind Synergy.
Yeah, that Whiplump, and I believe if it has Plethoric online, if it's running Plethoric, it's going to outspeed everything.
Well, it took a little bit of damage, right? But...
Oh, okay, yeah. But still, a Tsunami here, that could be deadly as we're waiting for Tsubaki-chan to make their pick of what's going to come and face down this Whiplump.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that might be really clutch that this Volerant of Tsubaki-chan survived at basically 1 HP, getting off this Feather Gatling, but with the Volerant of Prody's side not dying, that is really unfortunate for Tsubaki-chan. And that means that, there's one free attack from this Volerant.
Pigapet being the option to swap in here for Tsubaki-chan. What do you think we're going to see from this Pigapet?
Well, most optimally, this Pigapig wants to Hypnosis the Whiplump, but I don't know if it's faster without any boosts, any speed boosts. And you can most certainly build a Whiplump that is faster, so therefore it comes down to Prody's TV spreads here. Because if he is faster with the Whiplump, then he can just Tsunami here, have this Whirlwind, maybe do something, as we see it actually swapped out here, so not taking any chances with the Volerant.
Yeah, Volerant swapping out, the Rise coming in, the Bamboozle going off on the Pigapet, and the Tsunami for the Whiplump. If the Pigapet is actually faster than is the Pigapet's faster than the Whiplump, and the Mastion is taken out for the turn.
Yeah, just a Tsunami without synergy. Still a very good choice here from Prody, as no matter where this Bamboozle lands, we'll just outright kill the Mastion or chunk the Pigapig in the meantime.
Yeah, Tataru coming out, or Tataru coming out and just looking all types of adorable, but we really know that is a demon rodent right there. So it has access to both Noxious Bomb and Stone Ball to push either of these Tims off the field.
And I just recently quickly looked up the speed tiers of Whiplump, as I was so confused that the Whiplump does not run speed and therefore gets outspeed by this Pigapig even on neutral.
Kinu swapping in for Prody, Whiplump with the Tornado on the Tataru, or on the Tataru, Pigapet with Hypnosis going down onto the
What
Rise.
a read!
But the Kinu swap is going to prevent that. The Major Slash coming out from the Tataru, and that is going to deal 44% damage. Even another one is not going to be enough to get that Whiplump off the field before it throws out enough damage to kill this Tataru.
Yeah, Protector by Fear at its finest again. But I'm really interested why he used Major Slash, because I would have thought that this Noxious Bomb would have just been better. But yeah, this turn couldn't be worse for Tsubaki-chan. Getting out-predicted here by the Kino, and that Kino obviously having then the added bonus of buffing up this Whiplump, making the Major Slash not that effective.
I really, really like the options there that Prody had available and picking like the best one, because the Tataru could have Stoneballed or Noxious Bomb into either slot, and choosing to swap into the Noxious Bomb for the Kinu would have always hurt the Kinu, but hoping for the Stoneball into the Rise slot and swapping in the Kinu was like a really, really great option, as far as the Kinu would take the least amount of damage swapping in. But that turn went even better than that situation could have.
Yeah, and we have seen this Pigapig being a little bit faster, so Tsubaki-chan could have outplayed Prodi as well, but wasn't able to.
Tataru with a turbo choreography, getting this Pigapec back into the game, boosting up its speed. But the Whiplump is going to say, that's your sacrifice, as it sharp brains and that Tataru is out. Kinu with the Beta Burst onto this Pigapec. We'll see this Pigapec's defenses as it tanks that Beta Burst fairly well, only taking 23%. And Raiken swapping in as the boss of this encounter, but the Whiplump has Tsunami online, but it's not going to outspeed the Pigapec's Bamboozle.
Well, Raiken is for sure the most, the tallest and the biggest Tem here on the field, as is basically as tall as Whiplump, but Whiplump obviously is flying. But in terms of power, it might just falter to this Whiplump, as the Whiplump, obviously water typing, will make it pretty good here for Prodi. And Prodi in general still has this Rise that can swap in and, neutralize Pigapec's speed. Therefore, make it a little bit more easy on Prodi's side. And obviously the Kino could swap in again, protector buffs, getting more tanky and more tanky. So I like Prodi's situation here, and Tsubaki-chan, kind of seems as he struggling to get a little bit going here in this match.
Yeah, the Embers, the Rise swap in coming in, like you called, demoralizing everybody. The Hypnosis from the Pigapec onto the Whiplump, and then Raiken responded with an Embers of its own onto Rise. But that is not going to deal much damage against that fire typing. I am just really, really appreciating the amount of thought going into both of these players' plays each turn, because I'm putting together these strategies in my head of what would be really cool for these tamers to do, and they are playing just 3 levels beyond that. And I have a lot of respect for Prodi and Tsubaki-chan in this game.
Yeah, Prodi absolutely killing it here. Now Turbo Choreography from this Pigapec trying to still maintain the speed here.
Yeah, Turbo Choreography going down, but Rise using the Roar, reducing the attack of both the Pigapec and the Raiken. Sand Splatter coming out as the surprise move. It is a special attack and does not care about physical damage, but
that is actually physical.
Oh, it's a physical, yeah, and that's not going to do anything to the Rise.
But I do think it's like 35 or 30 base damage, so it's like even less than I don't know, like a nibble or something. It's all the same as a nibble, but here we go. Big attack coming in
with the Tsunami. Pigapec with a Bamboozle onto Raiken, and Raiken going to be able to tank that so well because of the Bamboozle, but the King's Roar, and there it is, the Big Daddy move, reducing the speed of both of these Tims and the attack power as the Raiken and Pigapec are reduced to tickling the last 4 Tims of Prodi.
The Pigapec doesn't have Sweatband, and you really notice that here there's only one turn of Bamboozle left here before this Pigapec overexerts. That is something that Prodi wants to basically wait for. This Whiplump probably has not sharp rain up yet, but will have in a hot second. So with Rise here being as well just having embers and can chip away at Pigapec. These roars are so devastating for Tsubaki-chan. This Raiken at -2 attack is near useless to say the least. And stalling with Hypnosis is not gonna help Tsubaki-chan in the long run.
Yeah, Pigapec with a Hypnosis, Rise with Fire Tornado, throwing it out onto this Pigapec, and that's going to deal a nice little chunk of damage. Raiken with another Sand Splatter, and it's like, don't hurt my support! Stop! Is what it screams.
Yeah, and with that, there's maybe for this Rise, there's maybe an Embers for this turn. And then he overexerts now, but this Pigapec survives with 1 HP.
Rise with the Embers onto the Pigapec. The Pigapec lives. the Raiken responds with another Embers onto the Rise, and the Rise is not going to take much damage from that, as the Whiplump is alert this turn and wakes up and has Tsunami online. The Piggyback has to choose who lives, who dies, and who tells the story.
Yeah, this Piggyback's like, well, it can bamboozle now, but will probably die in the. Actually,
the Piggyback with the Bamboozle on the Raiken with an Embers onto the Whiplump, and it is chipping away. The Rise just rested out.
I'm very sorry, I can't just help myself but laugh at the amount of damage this Raiken is dealing. I mean, the Burn Tick did more damage than the Embers, and you know, it's the Piggyback still surviving here, as we couldn't really see what stamina was left. So this Piggyback needs to rest here right now, because Swaggy-chan doesn't want to overexert, just lose this Piggyback for free. Just wants to make sure this Fainted Curse will at least deal a little bit of damage to Proddy's team here, as both the Rise or the Whiplump are in the danger of dying if they kill the Piggyback. But Proddy here has now the option to just Roar and King's Roar again, which I found also very interesting. So with the Piggyback probably not attacking this turn and Roar being available for him, he can just lower the Raiken's damage even further. So
Sharp Brains coming out from the Whiplump onto the Raiken, and the Raiken is going to survive that. Rise with Embers onto the Piggyback, and the Piggyback is out of here. The Fainted Curse ticking, and the Rise living with 3%. The Sand Splatter going onto the Rise, and that's going to trigger the Prideful, as Raiken is at 3.9% and does it have a hope of outspeeding this Whiplump? I don't believe it does.
Yeah, I do think it is at -1 speed, because Raiken swapped in and used the King's Roar. As we can quickly confirm, actually it's at neutral speed, as the Piggyback used Turbo. But Kino should be faster anyways.
Tsunami from Whiplump going down onto this Raiken, and that is going to mop up game 1 of our finals in Proddy's favor, as Proddy takes it 1-0 for the Fellow Tamers Little Cup.
One step closer to this cash prize of 120 euros. Yeah, very well played from him, and I do think he looked pretty good here in the whole match, basically only having a weak turn 1. But this time around, Tsubaki couldn't completely read him or read his opponent, and therefore, you know, having a good turn 1, but not a devastating one, and therefore Proddy could easily come back.
Yeah, Proddy was able to, definitely come back, climb their way back into that game, as the start was, that's where I felt too, right there with you, just like the start tilted in Tsubaki-chan's favor, but Proddy was just able to play around that team and bring it in the end. And at the very start of that match, when I saw Proddy's team, I was like, where's your damage other than Whiplump? And the Whiplump survived to the end of the game, being Hypnosis and throwing out like as much damage as it could in the in-between turns. Very, very great play from those players.
And one thing to keep in mind, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but this Whiplump was Hypnosis a little bit, was a little bit asleep. So that meant that probably not an attack would be thrown its way, since it's asleep and can't do damage, right? But this kind of helped out in a sense that that was basically a free turn of rest for it. You know, it's like not getting attacked, not needing to worry about, being swapped in, swapped out because it takes too much damage. And therefore being able to recover a lot of stamina. And we have seen it on the field for 6-7 turns, and with the amount of damage it could do, it's really pushed that game from Proddy.
Yeah, and again too, that trade where we were both unsure of on the Volderen, while those two Tims are such great Tims on their own in regards to Proddy's strategy that game, needing his Whiplump to survive so much, getting those noxious bomb users out of there, resulted in Proddy being able to take so much room inside of that game.
As well as Tsubaki-chan obviously had a very good start because of the pressure of Noxious Bomb. And he traded his Valorant versus the Mushuk of Prody's side. And in the end, that kind of hurt him a little bit. Just because, well, one of the best counters to Whiplump is a Valorant, especially an anaerobic one. So, if he had that for the later stages of the game, I do think Prody would have much more problems with Tsubaki-chan's lineup. But with that trade, that didn't really favor Tsubaki-chan, not in the very short term, as well as the long term. So, that turn, I do think, set the pace for the rest of the game, and that is what, Prody did to pull ahead and where the turning point was, basically.
Yeah, both of these tamers just duking it out over and over that game for getting to that point. We were talking about the Mushuk briefly and just like what it meant, and like that's one of the things I saw in the pick and ban phase was when the Whiplump was picked up with that possibility of it being an anaerobic Valorant, I thought the game would depend a little bit more on Mushuk, because I was like, there's no way this Whiplump's going to be able to get like any sort of rounds once it gets walled out by an anaerobic Valorant on the field the whole time. But Prody did an excellent job working around the obstacles and finding their way through that game. As we get into game 2 of our finals, we are in the pick and bans already. We have Prody in the blue and Tsubaki-chan in the gold. First ban for Tsubaki-chan was onto Prody's Volcrane a second time. And Prody's first ban was onto Gyalis. Prody picking up for their opener that Whiplump Kinu start again, and Tsubaki-chan picking up for their opener the Teteru Voloran start again, as this looks to be a salty run back.
Indeed, and I don't think that this is bad here for Tsubaki-chan, as he is the one to need to come back, right? So I do think his starting lineup was in his favor. So why just not just rerun it and have the same pressure that we talked about in turn 1 again? But obviously he needs to kind of change up his game plan for the late game a little bit as he actually bans the Valorant. I do think both lineups were fine basically for these players. Yeah, just the trade from Prody's side here basically meant that overall Tsubaki-chan was kind of stripped of his answers to this Whiplump.
Grandpa being banned out on Tsubaki's team, and the Voloran was banned on Prody's, with Pigapex being picked up by both players, and Mastion being picked up again by Tsubaki-chan, as we've seen that Pyromaniac Fire Chip can throw out so much damage regardless of the Tim they're fighting into. As Prody is now picking their final 2 Tims for this team, going with the Rise, who did so much work, and bringing the Gyalis this time around.
Well, this Raikon suddenly looks quite better, to be fair. Because there's no, like, one of these prime targets, raid boss style things that Kinu plus Valash, Kinu plus Gyalis did beforehand. So, without this, like, super good synergy with a Kinu, yeah, this Raikon just looks fine to just really shut down the Gyalis pick.
Yeah, Raikon being brought into this game. Kinu and Whiplump starting off on the field for Prody versus Tsubaki-chan's Voloran and Teteru. We are getting into game 2. What do you think we're going to see here, Bobby?
Well, I do want to point out that I would like Tsubaki-chan to throw with Teteru. I do think that's quite vital to, in the end, combat the Rise.
I could pause you for a second. I've got the stream up on my other screen, Dan, and we are at the pause screen, and we are actually able to spectate inside of the game if we can get that swapped over. But go ahead, Fabi.
So, I don't know if we have seen the pick and bans here, but to go quickly over the temps here, we have Tsubaki-chan with a Teteru Valorant lead against Whiplump and Kinu of Prody's side, same as last time, and then we have pick-a-picks on both sides, and we round out Tsubaki-chan's lineup with Mastion and Raikon. which are 2 fire attempts, and then we have Rise and Gialis on Prody's side. And I do feel like the Tadaru for Tsubaki-chan is such a vital item here to be able to deal with the Rise. If we have a similar situation where the Rise can just roar King's Roar and then maybe do it again in the later stages of the game, Tsubaki-chan has so much physical attackers that's really bad for him, and that's the way he instantly loses, basically.
That Whiplum swapping out, not taking any noxious bombs. Kinu swapping out for Prodi as Pigapet comes in alongside this guy Alice. Tadaru swapping out for Tsubaki-chan, recognizing they'll likely need it later. The Mastion swapping in for Tsubaki, reading that guy Alice swapping Volarin, the only one staying in. That anaerobic Volarin being able to throw down a noxious bomb a turn as the guy Alice is able to tank that really well. The Volarin running Sweatband too.
Yeah, and here we see, a good read, good play from Tsubaki-chan, wanting to swap in this Mastion and not let this Gialis be a free switch in. But with Prodi swapping in the Pig as well, this Gialis sits pretty good here, actually. You know, Bambuze heat up, such a classic combination of moves here, really threatens Tsubaki-chan's lineup, and yeah, he might be able to, you know, proc that with Feather Gatling and then apply an Embers onto the Gialis, but still, that it looks like Prodi has a good situation here where he can actually try to heat up and not receive too much damage in the ringing time.
One thing I want to see more from players like this, well, Tsubaki switching out the Volarin as the Raiken swaps in, taking its place. Mastion with the Meteor Swarm, outspeeding both the Pigapek and the Gialis. And the Pyromaniac bringing that Gialis down to next to no HP. Pigapek resting and Gialis resting as it looks like Prodi's Temtem has bugged out. That was shocking for me. I was like, there's no way a low priority Meteor Swarm outspeeds a unbuffed Gialis doing literally anything. We'll get a word from our tournament organizer on what he has to do going into the rest of this match. But the Gialis is going to swap out for the Whiplump and the Turbo Choreography for the Pigapet, going off on the Whiplump, allowing for that 2 stages of speed. Embers from the Mastion onto the Whiplump is going to burn it, and a Meteor Swarm, double Meteor Swarm action coming down from the Raiken onto the Pigapet.
Yeah, that's really an unfortunate turn here for Prodi, and luckily he was able to restart his game quickly enough to get at least the second turn here and not be stuck with that much downtime. But yeah, that previously there was a really good turn light up here for Prodi. He could have easily naked Hypnosis the Mastion, negating any attack from that, and with a switch of Tsubaki-chan into that Raiken, it would have meant a very free heat up. But now, with the course of the action, obviously Gialis 20% of HP, nearly out of the game, and obviously Pig receiving a lot of damage as well, setting up Tsubaki-chan for kind of nice, easy advantage here for him. Obviously, not really fair in a way, but I mean, what can we do, right?
Yeah, so one of the most difficult situations to just be in, especially on a tournament like this with so much money on the line. And yeah, that's just one of the problems of, you know, just early access, that sometimes, you know, there are bugs that crash out your game. We are waiting for these Tamers to get into the next turn as Mastion swaps out for Tsubaki-chan and Volarin swaps in. Pigapek with the Bamboozle onto Whiplump, and Whiplump with a Synergize Tsunami is going to hit this Raiken, dealing 34% of its 36% of its HP with double freeze pressure, and that Pigapek is going to be hit by the Fire Tornado, but it is not out of here yet.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny that Raiken has a quite similar special attack to Rise, obviously boasting very much better physical attack, but this Fire Tornado did not do much damage. And, well, Prody's Whiplump here still, with +2 speed and with the Protector buff as well. Might actually be able to swing the game back, as now suddenly he can, freeze one of these Tems, pick and bamboozle, and, Prody can stall out the game a little bit, chip away on Tsubaki-chan's side, and maybe we see a comeback from this Whiplump, as we have seen it being so strong in the previous game. This Piggy obviously also being able to hypnosis one of these Tems. So Prody really has access to all the start he wants and all the start he needs to claw his way back into the game.
And and just like looking at this setup, Prody is in such a good situation, which is very unfortunate. They lost that turn, but just goes to show how much thought went into the selection of this team in the position that Prody was trying to get themselves in a little sooner. That Bamboozle online just gives this Whiplump so many options over the field right now, as I believe it's going to pretty much decide it's going to outspeed both of these two Tems.
Yeah, as Tsubaki-chan here debating on what to do, as suddenly Prody has the upper hand and can stall out really well.
Yeah, the Raikan swapping out on Tsubaki-chan's side, the Voloran being put to sleep by the Pigapek, and Whiplump attacking in with the Sharp Rain onto Tsubaki-chan's Whiplump, and the Whiplumps are in the Pigapek snare is going to eat the Whiplump's item, and that Sharp Rain is going to do a huge amount of damage as Prody is just going to inch their way back into this game.
Yeah, with Tsubaki-chan now with this Pigapek, the Pigapek is not really putting up a lot of pressure. Obviously it can turbo and be on par with the speed of Prody's Tems, but the Pigapek could turbo anyways as well, so always an option to try and freeze Tsubaki-chan's Tems here. One thing to keep in mind though is that a lot of things rely on this Pigapek to be alive and to aid this Whiplump. So we see the turbo choreography here.
Turbo choreography used by the Pigapek, and that is going to be a +2 speed. The tsunami coming from the Whiplump on Prody's side is going to put out a bit of freeze pressure, but the Voloran only had one more turn of cold left on it as Prody's Pigapek bamboozled itself.
Yeah, because now the Pigapek can be put to freeze from Tsubaki-chan's side, and as basically a cold breeze can just do it, giving Tsubaki-chan a little bit of flashbacks to his free taming experience.
Whiplump swapping out for Prody as Rise swaps in and is going to cancel out half of that turbo choreography. Pigapek with Oshi Dashi is going to attack into the Bamboozle. The Toxic Plume is not going to be enough to kill Prody's Pigapek, but Prody rested this turn rather than having his Pigapek do anything, and the Pigapek's taken out by the Poison Tick from the Voloran on Tsubaki-chan's side.
Yeah, that went pretty well for Tsubaki-chan, and now Prody with his Gialis now looking to do something, maybe trading with a Pigapek as a last-ditch effort.
Yeah, Gialis swapping in here, and we will see what it's able to do. I like Gialises that have one turn to get online, because even when pushed into a bad situation, Gialis's base speed, having access to Haido Uchi, it can function as almost kind of a semi-support, but as long as these Tems have one stage of speed on Gialis, I'm wondering just where all of these moves are going to land at.
I mean, Gialis, if I recall correctly, yeah, okay, he was on the field for one turn. Yeah, it's correct. Was wondering because, well, he did nothing, right? But it was the one turn Prodi lost. So yeah, this guy has access to sharp steps or these kind of moves. So we will see if Piggypack is faster, and he is.
Piggypack taking advantage of that speed with Hypnosis, putting that Gyalis to sleep. Gyalis is put to sleep, and Volarin using Feather Gatling onto the Gyalis is going to deal enough damage to kill it. As this Rise gets another turn on the field, and it's going to Embers the Volarin. And we saw how much work this Rise was able to do last game, as I believe now it's got Roar and King's Roar online.
And he has still the Whiplum that was kind of the MVP of last game as well. Did really a lot of work. So I do think, though, probably needs to try and cycle through Kino and Rise here a little bit. Rise obviously can use Roar here, but and it might not be the best option here to summon the Kino, as it is kind of predictable. You want to buff up the Whiplum, and therefore, with the Kino in, you might need a Noxious Bomb that is not very healthy for a Kino. But I do think if he can swap in and swap out Kino like once, twice, and the Rise as well, that might set him up quite easily to then Roar and King's Roar this Mastion and Raiken. And if it was for that, he might actually be able to win, but I don't think he can actually. And this is because of the Tataru that I mentioned in the very first turn.
Whiplump with the Tornado onto Volarin deals a good amount of damage, considering that's an anaerobic Volarin. Piggypack with the Oshidashi onto Whiplump is going to deal next to no damage as it overexerts to do so. Volarin with the Noxious Bomb coming down onto the Whiplump is going to deal so much damage, and like we said, that Whiplump is essential for Prodi's team, and it cannot be taken this low. The Fire Tornado coming out and being burned on the Piggypack with 1% HP is going to kill the Piggypack and hit the Fainted Curse onto Rise, as so many things are stacking against Prodi this game.
Yeah, but considering all of this, though, I think that Sparky Chain has it in his pocket anyways. Because of the Tataru, we have seen it being there on turn 1 and then swapped out. And why is that? Because Tataru obviously has Stoneball, so if Sparky Chain can just get rid of one Tem, basically, then Tataru can basically 2v1 any of these.
Yeah, Tsubaki's Chan's Whiplump with the Sharp Rain into the Raiken, and the Raiken with an Embers back into the Whiplump, and the Rise with an Embers into the Volarin. That Burn Tick's going to be enough to take out the Whiplump, and the Volarin is going to be sitting just dandy on the field. This Kino swaps out, giving its final Protector buff, and that is going to be Game 2 in favor of Tsubaki-chan. If you are just tuning in, you are watching the finals of the Fellow Tamers Little Cup. It is 1-1, one game in favor of Prodi and one game in favor of Tsubaki-chan. Unfortunately, Prodi was plagued with a couple issues that game that bugged out their game, and Tsubaki-chan was able to also be able to just keep the momentum going and stop Tsubaki from being able to get back into that game. Having that Tataru on deck and so many other options, that second game just went in Tsubaki's favor.
Yeah, and it was really very bad timing as well, as Prodi had basically one or two moves from there that really could push him into the lead, and instead obviously receiving the worst that he could have thought. But just one clarification here. I do think that in our rules we state that if a bug happens in the pick and ban phase, we would then redo the pick and ban phase with the same picks and bans as we had previously, up until the point where the bug happens. But once the pick and ban phase is done, we will not restart the match, and this is obviously not to be unfair for players, in the sense that we also want nothing happening like abusing that and saying, oh, I got a bug, and then restarting if you look like you have a really bad pick and ban draft. If you see like, oh, I messed up turn 1, like restart the match or something. So with that being said, it's unfortunate, but Prodi will still have one chance, and with his showing, I do think he is very well equipped and able to go toe-to-toe or even outright beat Tsubaki Chain in a good fashion. So it will come down to pick and bans, and it will come down to the first couple of turns here to set the tone for the next match, for the final match, Game 3 in this finale.
And again, this is the Fellow Tamers Little Cup, brought to you by Temporium. We are actually casting this game, but we are partnered with another Temtem community that is helping that is organizing this and putting it all together. If you want to compete in these little cups or join our Discord and see the rules of them, you can type !Discord in the chat right now. Join our Discord and you can see all of the rules and rulings for the Fellow Tamers Little Cup going on there. And we still have a great final match for you, about our final game about to come up as soon as these two Tamers are ready.
Yeah, and these little cups here are monthly, and we actually have, our Fellow Tamers actually have set up a website with a lot of statistics, pick and ban rate of certain Tems, to just, rewatch and get a little bit more information about this tournament. It is for a 220 euro prize pool, unheard of in a Temtem scenario here like this. Actual real money. So Prodi and Tsubaki-chan here in the final match competing for 120 euros for the winner.
Yes, that money on the line here. And one of the things one of my friends told me was whoever wins these tournaments, and there's one winner each month, but the people who are winning these tournaments are the first professional Temtem players, the first ones to make money off of Temtem tournaments playing competitively. So that is a big accolade to put under your belt. We are jumping into Game 3 of Tsubaki versus Prodi. We have Tsubaki-chan in the blue and Prodi in the gold, as Tsubaki-chan has opened Game 3 picking Tataru, and Volcrane has actually finally gotten through for Prodi, as Tsubaki-chan has banned out the Whiplump instead of first banning the Volcrane as they have been doing. Prodi has banned out the guy Alice on Tsubaki-chan's side of the on Tsubaki-chan's team.
Yeah, and Tsubaki-chan realizing that despite obviously winning the second game, it was quite hard, and Prodi had the upper hand in this turn 3 anyways. So he just thought by himself, well, I need to change up something. I can't just, let through this Whiplum Kino start here from Prodi's side. I might have a good turn 1, but suddenly that shifts and I'm at the back foot then. So he lets the Volcrane through, and Prodi rightfully deciding to instantly pick it at it's not only good against Mestion and Raiken, but also obviously against Kino. So
yeah, Volcrane going to be a monster as Prodi picks up Kinu and Tsubaki-chan picks up the Pigapect company, the Tataru. Prodi banning out the Grandpa, not allowing that Hypnosis Turbo choreography play to come easily, making Tsubaki-chan have to work for it. Tsubaki-chan banning a Pigapect on Prodi's side and opting to pick up the Volren for Tsubaki-chan's team.
Now Tsubaki-chan with this Volorant, and this is then answered by the Mashuk and the Volorant of Prodi's side. Nice pickups here, as the Mashuk and the Volorant were very nice additions to Prodi's team in the game 1 that he won. So smart on him. And you see Raiken and Rise, same evolution line, different evolutions facing off as the last pick here for both of these teams. Tames.
Yes, we are getting into game 3 for all the marbles. Prati versus Tsubaki-chan. We have Prati in the blue, or Prati in the gold, and Tsubaki-chan in the blue. And getting started here, this is a new start for each of these tamers. Fabi, do you think we're going to see anything like super interesting in this first turn?
Depends on how you define super interesting. Well, we see something different, but I would still think that we see probably a Bamboozle on the Tadru, then a perfect jab on the Vulcran slot, and Kinu does probably whatever.
Volcrane swapping out for Mushuk, Bamboozle, like you called on the Pigapek, going on to the Tataru. The Tataru's Bamboozle being broken by the Kinu's Beta Burst, and a Stone Ball onto the Mushuk, but that is not going to deal much of any damage because of the parrier.
Yeah, and this is why I would have liked the perfect jab way more. It is super effective still against Volcrane, so it would deal about like 30-40% of damage to it anyways. And in return, if you have a Mushuk swap in, minus defense, always good to have on this Mushuk, as we have seen that previously as well. Suddenly this Mushuk actually can be killed with physical attacks once you lower its defense. But with that, Prati...
Always hyped to see Mushuk, though, out on the field.
Yeah, and with that swap in and Tsubaki-chan not getting the read or not playing it super safe, a bit too aggressive with the Stone Ball, Prati kind of turned a kind of bad situation in favor again.
Volarin swapping in for Prati as Pigapet with the turbo choreography on Tsubaki-chan's side of the field. Or rather, Teruo with the turbo choreography, Pigapek with the hypnosis instead on a Mushuk, putting it to sleep for the turn. And that Pigapek is going to be in control of this game with +2 stages of speed.
Yeah, not only that, but I would have assumed that Prati really wanted to do the same thing, turbo choreography with the Mushuk, and then have the Voron swap in to receive the synergy. But with the hypnosis coming from this Pigapek, not only that is denied, but obviously sets Prati back in the speed war. He has the rise to combat that, but that sets Tsubaki-chan actually kind of in favor now, as there will be probably a Bamboozle, maybe a rest from this Pigapek, and it can just hypnosis every second turn, and that might just be enough for Tsubaki-chan to win from this position.
Yeah, and these little inchings forward towards who can be in the lead for this game and just put out the pressure on the enemy team is how you take these matches. Kinu swapping in for Prati, gonna give that protector buff off to the Mushuk. Pigapek with another Bamboozle, this time on itself. Tataru with the perfect jab going down onto the Kinu. And Mushuk just catching some Z's.
Yeah, but this turn was kind of a low turn. There's nothing much to do here from Tsubaki or Prati's side. But I feel like Prati used his time more effectively, as Mushuk is now at +1 defense. Recall it could be -1 or even at this point. So, inching and getting a little bit of value out of this. And, well, Kino is now in range of just 1 Embers from a Mastion or Raiken. But it was not very wise to leave Kino in against those anyways. So, I feel like Prati made the best of the situation and can probably now swap in Rise, swap in Valorant again, trying to set up maybe a turbo choreography on his own with the Mushuk now alerted and unable to set to sleep.
Yeah, so many good options here for Prati to try and do that swapping of the inches. Each player just inching forward in this victory. I see a lot of pressure on this Tataru slot as Tataru actually swaps out for Tsubaki-chan and Mastion swaps in to take its place. Kinu swapping out for Prati and Volarin swapping in on Prati's side of the field. Pigapek with another Bamboozle onto Mastion, and Mushuk with the perfect jab to break the Bamboozle, and both Tims are Bamboozle free.
And one question here from chat. Previously, if Mashuk used turbo choreography, might just outsped the Pigapig's hypnosis. And well, I don't quite know, as maybe actually Mashuk is that slow.
Well, no, I think what was going on there was the Mashuk was looking for a perfect jab to Noxious Bomb as it set up the turbos. And that's probably why it got outsped by the hypnosis. I think it was a sneaky play. But Pigapig with the hypnosis onto the Mashuk is going to put the Mashuk to sleep, and Volarin with a toxic plume onto both the Mastion and the Pigapig. It's going to deal a nice little chunk of damage, and the Meteor is going to be enough to wake Mashuk back up.
Yeah, and one needs to wonder about the overall game plan here from Proddy's side. He has not managed to, even the field here with the turbo choreography on his own. And that kind of bites him now, as the Pig is able to use that in the previous turn, and therefore this Mastion could have come in here a little bit more easily.
Yeah, this Pigapig running away with the game for Tsubaki-chan, but as it stands right now, Tsubaki-chan's going to have to find another option for it, or just overexert this Pigapig into the down below. And we'll see what they choose. But the Mashuk, again, with the alerted condition, and again, facing down Tims that it's not horrifically scared of.
Can we finally see the turbo choreography? Because I feel like that is such a vital asset here for Proddy. He wants to have the speed because he has the rise, so you can easily swap in a rise in, for example, the next turn, and therefore, get on with his speed war, basically. Trying to reduce the Pigapig's speed, set him up a little bit better so the Pigapig can't just, rest hypnosis all game.
Yeah, I think Proddy's secretly saying right now, Fabi, it'll be a cold day in Heckerdoodles when you see me use turbo choreography. As Mashuk with an irrushable onto the Pigapig, the synergy is going to put 4 stacks of poison, a feather Gatling from the Volarin onto the Mastion, and the Mastion with an Embers onto the Volarin is going to burn it, and the Pigapig finally resting rather than overexerting this turn for another Bamboozle.
Finally seeing what Proddy really wanted to do. It's Orashio, and how could I actually forget? It's basically his signature move at this point. Whenever there's a Valorant in Mashuk, just press Orashio, dude. It's like 50% damage no matter what, right? And this Pigapig now only needs about 11% of damage dealt to it in order to just go down to the poison ticks.
Yeah, and with that, I think Tsubaki-chan is measuring this out, finding out if they want to sacrifice this Pigapig or if they want to save it for later in the game. As I believe the only other turbo user is Tataru on Tsubaki-chan's side. Mashuk swapping out for Proddy, Rise coming in like you call it that turn to get the Demoralize off. Volcrane swapping in for the double fire as Pigapig uses Hypnosis again onto the Rise slot. The Rise is going to be put to sleep, and the Mastion with a Meteor Swarm, it's not going to deal too much damage against these fire and physically defensive Tims, even with the Fire Pyromaniac and even with the Fire Chip.
Yeah, and I'm scratching my head right now as Tsubaki-chan used Meteor Swarm after Hypnosis. And I do think that should be pretty suboptimal, to say the least. We have 11% stamina left on this Pigapig, so any damage coming from this Volcano Rise will just kill it after the 2 ticks of poison tick down. And also, keep in mind, this Volcrane suddenly looks really good against these fire attempts of Tsubaki-chan's side. Just a Stoneball, and Tsubaki-chan has to worry about that.
Bastion swapping out, Volaren swapping in, but the Pigapek is running Sharp Rain. Who does that? The Volcrane reduced down to 47% HP, and the Volcrane with a synergized Stone Ball, and the Rise's Embers is going to take out the Pigapek along with the poison, and it is out of here. No Fainted Curse on anybody, and does Tsubaki-chan have an answer to this Volcrane? The Tateru can run Stone Ball. We have not seen it use it yet this set, I don't believe.
Well, if you don't run Stone Ball, I do think the Tateru is probably not good here at all. It's basic. I mean, Tsubaki-chan basically did not ban Gialis because he has these two fires and the Tateru, so he couldn't be outbanned for that. So I do believe Tateru has Stone Ball, but yeah, with the Sharp Rain actually not doing that much to the Volcrane here. Volcrane just might be able to use something, maybe a Ninja Jutsu as well.
I'm counting on my fingers, Fabi, and I don't know. So hit me here if I'm wrong. We've got Perfect Jab we've seen from the Tateru. We've seen it use Turbo Choreography. We've seen it use Noxious Bomb, and we've seen it use Major Slash.
Oh, you're right. Major Slash is the fourth move. So therefore...
Yeah, they can swap moves in between matches, but like I think Tsubaki's been pretty consistent with this moveset throughout the tournament.
Yeah, with the Major Slash there as well, making sense. So, yeah, suddenly this Volcrane or this Rise will not get one-shotted by this Tateru. You're right, but
there is always a surprise factor. I think that's like one of the coolest parts of this game. You never know what your opponent's gonna do. Rise swapping out for Volaren. Looks like Prodi's taking the gamble, and it's running Turbo Choreography again this game instead of the Stone Ball. Because Grandpa keeps getting banned out this match, that Hyperkinetic's going to be the option, but it's not going to be enough for the Volcrane. As the Volcrane uses Extinction on the Tateru at 100% HP and the tanky anaerobic Volaren. Oh, it's such a big Extinction play.
He's up one Tem as well, so he can swap here, and you know, his Volaren was low, his Volcrane. These are the Tems that took the most damage, so you know, he's really fine with just letting this Volcrane stay in, with his Volaren stay in, taking down turns and making Tsubaki-chan really fight here to get the most value out of these. But you're right, Extinction, such a good move in this situation. The Volaren...
Did the Volcrane just dab? I was looking away. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fabi.
Well, I'm not sure about the Volcrane, but Prodi might.
True. The Kinu swapping in for Prodi, giving that protector buff off to the Volcrane, but the Volcrane swapping out as the Mushuk swaps in alongside this Kinu. Volaren with the Feather Gatling onto the Kinu, gonna deal a good chunk of damage. Kinu not with a lot of physical defenses. Tateru with the Stone... it does have Stone Ball onto the Mushuk. I wonder what it dropped for that.
Wait, what? Confusion between the casters here, as...
It was running Stone Ball, which I think maybe it dropped Noxious Bomb, and we haven't seen that this match.
Yeah, that could be the case then. Because I do think we have seen the perfect jab, so that would make sense. And yeah, but probably really trying to preserve his Volcrane just a little bit. Volcrane obviously being very good against the Bastion and Raiken, wants to preserve that. So have maybe the Volcrane the Rise for the very late game, as you know, Volorant and Tateru will die eventually, and that therefore leaving Bastion and Raiken. Having these two fire attempts, then being well equipped to deal with that. But I do like swap in with the Volorant here, eat a little bit more damage before it dies to the Doom counter.
Volaren swapping in, taking the place of that Mushuk. Kinu swapping out, and the Rise swapping in to take its place. The Demoralize going off on these two Tems. Tateru with a perfect jab onto the Rise's slot. It's going to deal a big chunk of damage. The Noxious Bomb Coming out is, well, the perfect jab, allowing the Noxious Bomb to deal a big chunk of damage. And all of these Tims are on their last stage of HP.
Interesting decision to swap in the Rise here. While the Rise itself does not do that much of damage against Bastion and Raiken. We have seen the Roars, and the Roars doing quite a bit of damage. Or preventing damage, to be precise. And Rise taking a lot of damage here right now, so very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, that boat too of just I would expect you would want that Demoralize to go on one of the Tims that are going to be remaining in this match, so you can just kind of eat away at them. But the last turn, we're going to see Rise swap out, Mushuk swap back in for Prodi as Tataru uses Major Slash onto that slot, going to deal a small amount of damage because Mushuk's physical defense, and a Noxious Bomb onto that slot is not going to deal much of anything to Mushuk, as these Tims are extinct.
Yeah, there will be no chicken to be had here in this game anymore, as both kind of died out into an extinction. But yeah, probably Prodi swapped in the Rise just to have this Mushuk come in again in the second turn there. Swapping in and out to have basically the damage distributed most evenly. And now with the Vulcrane, actually I would have expected the Rise here and then a Roar, but instead we see a perfect jab starting this round.
Out from the Mushuk, Raiken with the Sand Splatter, and Mastion is running Major Slash onto the Vulcrane, but it's got so much physical defense, it's not going to kill it. The Vulcrane with the Stone Ball and the Mastion is out of here. This Raiken is looking at 2 or at 4 Tims it's got to take down, and it needs a Prideful buff now or never. Vulcrane swapping out for Prodi, Rise coming in, getting that Demoralize off onto the Raiken, and Mushuk with another perfect jab onto the Raiken. The Raiken with the Sand Splatter, not going to be enough to kill that Rise, and I believe now the Rise is definitely in the speed lead here.
Well, it's something you don't say very often, but with a lot of Demoralizes, that is a possibility. So probably tries to juggle here a little bit the HP bars from his 3 remaining Tims, so the Mushuk just can perfect jab over and over, reducing this defense of Raiken. Now King's Roar.
Yeah, the King's Roar coming out, and the Sand Splatter from this Raiken just going over and over into this Rise, but this Rise proving it's the superior evolution of this family.
To be fair, they do not have to do the same job as Raiken looks down here and tries to 1v4, whereas Rise literally just wants to take a little bit of damage.
Yeah, Kinu swapping in for Prodi. Prodi taking no chances with this match, playing everything safe and measured as another perfect jab goes out on this Raiken. What is this Raiken's physical defense at? Next to nothing.
It's at -4, so Prodi, it's about time to use that uppercut here, as the Kino gets swapped in to just, juggle these HP bars. We have seen every time of Prodi is below 20% of HP, well, the Mushuk is at 22, but all in the below 1/4 of HP, all very red, but not allowing Tsubaki-chan any prideful buffs to come back into the game. And I do think a Beta Burst and uppercut should finally seal the deal here.
Yeah, and like you said, Prodi just playing around that prideful, not taking a single chance. This Raiken, very, very scary Fire Tim. Kinu with a Hypnosis.
What?
It's got an energy drink, and the Kinu is out of here. The Prideful buff is triggered, and it's got one of its stages of attack and special attack up, and it's got Fire Tornado on deck to take something else out. If it can ever get a move off.
But to be fair, this +1 speed is met with a -1 speed of the Rise Demoralize. So Mashuk now...
Perfect jab.
Dude!
The Mashuk is running uppercut, actually. And the inverse is going to be enough to take this Raiken out. And that is 2-0 in Pradi's favor. Taking this grudge match 1-0. Tsubaki winning over Pradi and Plus's tournament. But Pradi being the champion of the Fellow Tamers Little Cup #2 here today.
Well, make it 2 to 0.5 or something, you know. Tsubaki-chan did win one, but, you know, still we have seen Tsubaki-chan have a major showing here. Really nice matches up until this final, where he got get to know his master here, at least for this week. So you have to say congratulations to Prodi for winning this €120 tournament, but also very well played to Tsubaki-chan, proving over and over again why he is such a big name in this community, going home or sitting at home with €60 for the second place.
Yeah, and a great showing by both of these tamers. If you want to watch more great Temtem action, we've got a couple of things coming up on the radar that I want to put out there for you. There is Josh Stryker's tournament tomorrow, if you want to tune into that. And then next week for Temporium, we have the Fantastic Four being banned out. You will see a tournament with no Kinu, no Gaialis, no Pigapet, and no Volaren. And that's going to be during the Temporium weekly tournament next week. Everybody stick around in the channel. We are going to raid and keep the Temtem love going. I've been Prez B. Kennedy, joined by Fabi. Fabi, do you want to send any final shout outs to the people?
Well, shout out to all the organizers, Yaluna and Havoc, to name two, and obviously all the moderators and guys behind the scenes for this amazing tournament. And thank you to all of you guys, to all the Twitch chat and the viewers, for supporting Temporium, for supporting Fellow Tamers and Temtem in general. So yeah, keep up the love, and when there's a raid, I hope obviously everybody joins and spams all of his emotes that he has access to.
Every emote, we need every emote spammed until you can't type anymore. All right, everybody, stick around, and thank you for tuning into the tournament today.